Chapter 2299 Can't Make a Move. Chu Yu couldn't stand it anymore, stretched out his hand to pull Luo Bing, and said, "Sister Bing, stop messing around, the city lord has to worry about tomorrow's ceremony today, I'm afraid I won't see you." "Pinchuang. I'm not fooling around, I want to buy these things," Luo Bing said stubbornly. Yang Kai shook his head, reached out and took the medicinal materials, put them into his space ring, then handed over the corresponding amount of source crystals to the shopkeeper, turned around and walked out. He was too lazy to entangle with these two people anymore. "Don't go," Luo Bing yelled resolutely, but it had no effect. Seeing that Yang Kai was about to leave, she quickly grabbed Chu Yu and begged, "Brother Yu, help me stop him, I have to buy those medicinal materials today." "Forget it." A trace of impatience flashed in Chu Yu's eyes, and he was almost at the limit of his patience when he was messing around with the little girl who didn't know much about the world. However, Sky Crane City is now very powerful, and Tianzhou Palace intends to get closer to it, so every time he came to Sky Crane City, he would accompany Luo Bing. It would not be good if the city lord knew about it. "What's the problem? In Tianhe City, I can take whoever I want, and I will be responsible for what happens." Luo Bing looked domineering. "What's more, isn't he with Chen Yizong and others together? Just ask him what kind of conspiracy he has in coming to the city." "Hey," Chu Yu sighed helplessly, seeing her being so troublesome, he could only bite the bullet and agree, not to mention, he also wanted to know what relationship Yang Kai had with Chenyi sect. There was no such person as Yang Kai in Chenyi sect. He is still very clear about this, but before at the city gate, Yi Qinghan actually said that he was from Chen Yizong, which made Chu Yu a little wary. After thinking about it, he nodded and said, "Okay. But if the city lord asked about this, I never mention you, brother Yu is the best." Luo Bing showed a happy look. Chu Yu's face turned serious, and he said in a low voice, "Second old man, it's time to work." No idea who he was talking to. Luo Bing stood there grinning, staring at Yang Kai's back, expecting him to be taken down. Fantasizing about the scene where this guy was tortured by herself, knelt down and begged for mercy, and obediently offered those medicinal materials with both hands, but she couldn't laugh anymore because Yang Kai Shishi ran out of the shop door, and then turned around. He rushed into the crowd, and then disappeared. He ran away. Luo Bing shook Chu Yu's arm and reminded. Chu Yu was also stunned. He yelled at the void, "Second elder, what's going on?" As soon as he finished speaking, the figures around him suddenly flashed, and the two Daoyuan third-level elders who had come with him at the city gate before appeared together, but at the moment, cold sweat was breaking out of their foreheads, their faces were slightly pale. "It looks like he has lingering fear. Why didn't you make a move?" Chu Yu looked angry, secretly feeling that he had lost face in front of Luo Bing. "I feel very bad." The two old men looked at each other, and one of them said, "Young master, you have learned a lesson. It's not that you don't make a move, but you can't make a move." "What's going on?" Chu Yu's expression darkened. The old man said, "The old man can't tell. Just now when the two of us were about to make a move, I felt an extremely dangerous feeling inexplicably, as if. As he spoke, a terrified look appeared on his face. Another old man continued, "It seems that if you really make a move, the two of us will lie down immediately." "Are you kidding?" Chu Yu opened his mouth wide and stared at the two old men with a look of disbelief. The old man who spoke earlier said, "My lord, I have followed you for many years, and I have never refused my lord's orders. But this time, something is strange." "That's right, please forgive me, my lord," another old man continued. Chu Yu stared at them for a long time, and then said shyly, "You mean, that kid pretends to be a pig and eats a tiger? Maybe he is a strong emperor." As soon as these words came out, Chu Yu couldn't help swallowing, a cold sweat broke out behind his back, and his face turned pale. The two elders are all strong at the third level of Daoyuan. Although they are old, their skills are becoming more and more pure and strong. There is no possibility outside the Emperor Senior realm. Thinking that he had actually provoked a strong man at the Emperor level, Chu Yu couldn't help but feel weak for a while, his legs trembled, and he couldn't stand still. No. The old man who spoke earlier shook his head. "That kid is not very old, he can't be a strong emperor," and the old man and the two of them have scanned him carefully with their spiritual thoughts. It is indeed the second level of Daoyuan. There is no doubt that the environment is cultivated. Then there is Emperor Senior realm protecting him in secret. Chu Yu was shocked again. "No, that feeling doesn't come from a strong emperor." Another old man shook his head. Chu Yu swallowed his saliva and said, "Did the second elder feel that something was wrong?" The old man who spoke before said, "Young master, do you not believe us?" "That's not the case." Chu Yu waved his hands quickly after hearing the words, "It's just, there must be an explanation for this matter. Could it be that that kid can easily defeat the second elder?" The old man sneered, "At his age, it's still 100 years too early for him to surpass the two of you." Luo Bing, who was listening on the sidelines, interrupted at this moment. "What are you talking about? That person has already run away. You two old guys are really useless. Brother Yu is still so kind to you." Quote. Chu Yu's face turned cold suddenly. She looked at Luo Bing and said, "Shut up." Luo Bing was taken aback. From the time she knew Chu Yu to now, she had never seen him treat her like this, and she had never seen him get so angry. Coupled with the grievances she suffered just now, she couldn't accept it for a while. Hysterically said, "You scold me. How dare you scold me?" Chu Yu snorted coldly. "The second elder treats me like an elder, and I won't allow you to humiliate me." Luo Bing's eyes turned red, and tears fell down like broken pearls. He gritted his teeth and stood on the spot, staring at Chu Yu bitterly. "Hate you, brother Yu is the worst, I hate you to death." After beating for a while, he turned his head and ran out of the store. In the blink of an eye, he rushed into the crowd and disappeared. "My lord, don't hurry up," one of the two old men said with a slightly changed face when he saw this. Chu Yu snorted coldly. "The little girl is spoiled, let her reflect on herself for a while." "But, what happened to Miss Ruoluo?" The old man looked worried. Chu Yu said indifferently, "She is the daughter of the city lord. Who would dare to do anything to her in Tianhe City? I'm afraid she has already gone to the city lord's mansion now. I know her character, so don't worry too much." Seeing what he said, the two old men couldn't say anything more. "That kid deserves more attention," Chu Yu said solemnly. "Maybe this kid has some secrets, and I really want to know what his background is." "Don't worry, my lord, I'll go check it out right away." An old man clasped his fists and said, before disappearing in a flash. In Tianhe City, on the street, a girl was crying, with a heartbroken appearance, rampaging among the crowd, causing repeated curses. Luo Bing was heartbroken, let alone being disgusted by an inexplicable man. He was even humiliated in that shop, and then he was scolded by Chu Yu, whom she regarded as her best friend. Ever since she was a child, she had never been wronged like this. For a while, she only felt sad, and the tears couldn't be stopped, and her eyes were red and swollen after crying. She ran while crying, looking back from time to time, as if she was expecting something, but she never saw anyone chasing her, and she was even more sad all of a sudden. She just felt that she was the most miserable person in the world, and no one could compare to herself. It's even more pitiful. After thinking about it, she felt that the culprit of all this was that mean-looking young man. If it wasn't for him not giving up the medicine to her, she wouldn't be able to step down, let alone be scolded by Chu Yu. Thinking of this, she scolded Yang Kai bloody in her heart, and secretly vowed to make him look good when she saw this person again. He didn't know how long he ran crying, but when Luo Bing came back to his senses, he found that he was lost. Although she is the daughter of the Lord of Tianhe City and grew up here since she was a child, she never went out in the past without hugging and escorting the guards to clear the way, so she didn't need to care too much at all. As long as she was happy, after shopping someone will take her home. And the places she went to were all the most prosperous areas in Sky Crane City. But at this moment, she found that the surroundings were depressed, the streets were narrow, the air smelled bad, and there was a disgusting smell everywhere. There were many disabled people setting up stalls and begging on both sides of the street. There was also a scruffy-looking beggar covered in dirt who was catching lice in the sun. When he caught one, he threw it into his mouth and bit it. It was crunchy and delicious. Luo Bing turned his head hastily, gagged for a while, and at the same time asked himself in his heart, is this still the Sky Crane City full of flowers? Could it be that I ran to some unknown small town? Thinking of this, Luo Bing was startled. If this is the case, then she must not be able to find her way home, and her mood that had just calmed down fell to the bottom again, and tears of panic flowed out again. At this moment, she suddenly saw two men walking by in front of her. As if she had caught a life-saving straw when she was drowning, she ran over with tears in her eyes, and said softly, "You two wait a minute." Hearing that, the two men couldn't help stopping their steps, turned around and looked at Luo Bing. With a quick glance, both of them were full of eyes. Luo Bing was originally born with a good appearance and a graceful figure. The perennial pampering gave her a natural superior temperament. Although she was crying like a pear blossom at the moment, it added a sense of pity for me. It's no wonder that these two people stared intently, swallowing their saliva secretly. Usually, in this place of Sky Crane City, any woman with some status and beauty would not come here, but today, a goddess suddenly came. Heartbeat reason, to be continued. Chapter 2300 Brain is broken. With a sweep of their spiritual thoughts, the two discovered that the girl was only at the void returning realm. They looked at each other, and they both saw the eagerness in each other's eyes. One of the chubby fighters put on a smile on his face, pretending to be mature and reliable, and asked softly, "Little girl, what do you mean by calling the next two? Is it possible that you are fascinated?" Hehehehe. Luo Bing's beautiful eyes lit up when he heard this, and he looked at the fat warrior in surprise and said, "This lady is just lost, I don't know how to go back." The fat warrior was stunned, thinking that he was just making a nonsense, and he was really wrong. Seeing the joyful look of the girl in front of him, it didn't seem like she was lying. He immediately understood that the girl in front of him should be the kind of person who stays at home all the year round and doesn't know the outside information. He coughed dryly and put on a pitiful look, said, "Little girl, don't be afraid, with the two of us here, no one will hurt you." Luo Bing wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes, relieved, and said with a smile, "Okay, I know that things are not that bad." When she smiled, it was like a spring breeze blooming overnight, and the eyes of the two warriors who looked at her were straight, swallowing saliva continuously, and their blood was boiling. "You two, hurry up and send this lady home, and there will be a lot of rewards after this lady returns." Luo Bing resumed his domineering posture in the blink of an eye, and shouted at the two warriors opposite. The two looked at each other, and another a slightly thinner warrior smiled and said, Okay, I will send the girl home now. Girl, come with us." Luo Bing nodded and instructed, "Take it." She didn't ask the other party if she knew who she was, and she didn't know where her home was, so she followed the two warriors and walked deeper into the alley. The other two obviously didn't mean to say more, they just walked forward dully. Luo Bing, who was following behind, also seemed to be in a happier mood, and all the previous unhappiness was forgotten in a flash. As he walked, he even hummed a little song, looking like a happy spirit bird. After a cup of tea, Luo Bing gradually realized that something was wrong. She stopped, turned her head and looked around, and found that this place was even more desolate than that place just now. And looking around, there is no one around, the house collapsed, a piece of ruined walls, like a ghost. This situation made Luo Bing flustered for a while, and tremblingly said, Didn't this lady ask you to take me home? What did you bring me here for?" The two warriors in front stopped at the same time when they heard the words, and turned their heads to look at Luo Bing with a sinister smile. No matter how stupid Luo Bing is. At this moment, he also realized that something was wrong. The two people in front of him didn't seem to be good people, and they didn't intend to take him home. What do you want to do?" Luo Bing's face turned pale with fright, and he took a few steps back incessantly, but he tripped over something under his feet, and one of them lost his footing and fell to the ground. Panic and pain surged up together, making her cry immediately. He. The fat warrior sneered incessantly. Walking towards Luo Bing step by step, the gradually approaching figure gave Luo Bing great psychological pressure. It made her heart beat so hard that it almost rushed out of her throat. "This lady warns you not to mess around. Otherwise, or you will die." Luo Bing bit her red lips, threatening the other party with words that she thought were the most powerful. But things have come to this point, how can those two people let it go? The thin warrior smiled and said, "Xiaoni is very interesting. Do your parents know that you are so naive?" The fat warrior laughed lewdly, and said, Call it. No one will answer you even if your throat is broken in this ghost place." While speaking, the fat warrior rushed to Luo Bing with a stride, and stretched out his hand to grab her slender neck. Luo Bing yelled in horror, and pushed up with both palms. While the holy energy in his body surged, he actually delivered a powerful blow. But after all, she is just a void returning realm warrior, and she has not loved her since she was a child. This level of cultivation can only be obtained with the accumulation and assistance of a large number of geniuses and treasures. And both the fat and thin warriors have already reached the level of the Void King realm, So facing this move, the fat warrior just waved his hand, and immediately shot the opponent's move like lightning, and slapped Luo Bing on the shoulder fiercely twice. Luo Bing softened all of a sudden, unable to lift up all his strength, his meridians were blocked, and his cultivation level was directly suppressed. He could only watch helplessly as the fat warrior stretched out his hand to grab the belt of his shirt, and slowly untied it. Don't, Luo Bing cried and begged. But the fat warrior was stimulated by this weak call to the evil deep in his heart. Hot air was sprayed from his nostrils, his eyes were red, he swallowed and said, "This girl's voice is really ecstasy, God has eyes, and let me." The two brothers met such a stunning beauty. The skinny warrior was also hot and hot. At this moment, he rushed to the top of Luo Bing's head, stretched out his hand and pinched her small face, with a look of inability to stop, and said, "The skin is tender and smooth, I don't know whose family's young lady, he, now it's cheaper for us." When Luo Bing heard this, he didn't know where the strength came from, and shouted, "I am the daughter of the city lord, you let me go quickly, or if my father finds out, you will die." As soon as these words came out, the fat and thin warriors froze and their faces turned pale. The fat warrior was sweating coldly on his forehead. After wiping one piece, another piece came out. He couldn't finish it. He said in a shy voice, "No way. The daughter of the city lord." The thin warrior also looked terrified, looked at Luo Bing and said, "What's your name?" Luo Bing looked at the two of them coldly, gritted his teeth and said, "My lady's name is Luo Bing." When the fat and thin warriors heard the words, they felt a chill from the soles of their feet to the top of their heads, causing the two of them to shudder involuntarily. Seriously looking at Luo Bing for a few moments, the fat warrior said tremblingly, It seems to be the eldest lady of the city lord's mansion. I have seen her from a distance before. It's over. The skinny warrior seemed unable to bear the huge blow, and fell to the ground with his buttocks, his eyes absent-minded, and he kept mumbling. The fat warrior was also trembling all over. He quickly withdrew his dirty hands that were undoing Luo Bing's clothes, looked at Luo Bing, as if he wanted to squeeze out a flattering smile but couldn't. His expression was uglier than crying. After learning that the girl in front of them was actually the daughter of the city lord, both of them were scared out of their wits, and all their souls flew out. They thought that Luo Bing was just a little girl who was enigmatic. How could they have thought that she had such a big background? If they had known that she was the daughter of the city lord, they wouldn't have dared to act like this even if they were given great courage. Seeing this, Luo Bing's eyes lit up, and he shouted, "You know you're afraid. If you don't want to die, just obediently send this lady back to the city lord's mansion." The fat warrior knelt down in front of Luo Bing, kowtowed his head like pounding garlic, smashed his head in a few strokes, blood flowed, and said, "My brothers are blind, offended Ms. Luo, and please Ms. Luo, around my two brothers." The skinny warrior also seemed to have regained his senses at this moment, and also crawled over and kowtowed, begging for mercy constantly. Luo Bing looked at the two of them with disgust, and snorted coldly, "You send me back to the city lord's mansion, and I will walk around you and not die." Really? The fat warrior was overjoyed when he heard the words, and looked up at Luo Bing, with a look of joy for the rest of his life. Luo Bing said, "However, capital crimes can be avoided, but living crimes are difficult. I have done what I did to this lady just now, and this lady will punish you well." She tilted her head and thought for a while, and said, "Let daddy imprison you for 10 or 8 years. Good year." The faces of the fat and thin warriors suddenly became colorful, and they stared at Luo Bing with strange expressions. "What are you looking at? Believe it or not, this lady dug out your eyeballs." Luo Bing glared at the two viciously, as if he had already controlled it. "Brother." The skinny warrior stabbed the fat warrior quietly, and said in a low voice, "This little girl, is her brain broken? If it wasn't for a broken brain, who would start threatening others before getting out of trouble? Anyone with common sense wouldn't do that." The fat warrior nodded seriously. "I also think it's the poor city lord, who is so famous in his life, gave birth to such a daughter. So what to do now?" A trace of ruthlessness flashed in the fat warrior's eyes, and he said slowly, "What else can I do? I don't want to be sexual." As he said this, a trace of murderous intent appeared on his face. The thin warrior heard the words and thought for a while, then nodded and said, "That's the only way to go." Although the two spoke softly, Luo Bing could hear them clearly. He thought that there was hope for getting out of trouble, but he didn't know that things were going to be turbulent. Moreover, it seemed that the meaning of the two people's words was not only to belittle themselves, but even she would take her own life, and she turned pale with fright, and said in shock, "What do you want to do? Don't do this, you send me back to the city lord's mansion, I won't punish you, okay?" "It's too late," the fat warrior sneered. Now that his heart had settled down, he was no longer so afraid. Although the city lord is not easy to provoke, this place is deserted. As long as the aftermath is cleaned up, they may not be able to be tracked down. He climbed down and half-kneeled beside Luo Bing. The fragrance lingered at the tip of his nose, making him feel hot all over. He pursed his mouth and touched Luo Bing's red lips. "If you can do it once, you will die with no regrets. Go away, don't." Luo Bing kept twisting her head, trying to avoid the disgusting face of the other party, but her cultivation was restricted and her actions were restrained. How could she do it? He could only watch helplessly as the opponent's big mouth got closer and closer to him. She could almost smell the bad smell in the other's mouth. Luo Bing's mind went blank for a moment. At this critical juncture, what appeared in her mind was not her doting father, nor Chu Yu, but the annoying figure of Yang Kai. If not for him, how could he have encountered these purgatory-like nightmares? To be continued. P.S. If you think that Yang Kai will come to save the beauty as a hero, that would be naive. Chapter 2301 You are all bad guys. Since there is no regret in dying, then you all go to die. Just when the fat warrior was about to kiss Luo Bing, a cold voice suddenly sounded. Up left arrow top up left arrow point up left arrow small up left arrow say, www. The two warriors, fat and thin, used to have sperm in their brains and blood in their heads, but when they heard someone else's voice, they suddenly stood up like a frightened bird, and the hairs all over their bodies stood on end. The fat warrior stood up abruptly, and before he had time to see who was talking, he suddenly saw a fist blasting towards him. The holy yuan on the fist was ups and downs, containing extremely ferocious moves, which were constantly enlarged in front of his eyes, covering all the light. The fat warrior wanted to dodge, but found that he couldn't dodge no matter what. The opponent's cultivation seems to be much higher than his. Bump! There was a muffled sound, and with the scream of the fat warrior, his fat body flew up on his back, and in midair, his entire head exploded like a smashed watermelon. Splash all around. Ah! When the sudden change occurred, the thin warrior screamed, but before he could recover, his brother died tragically in front of him. He hurriedly looked up, only to see a burly man with shaggy hair appearing in front of him at some point. The strong man seemed to have fought with no one. The whole place is full of blood, which makes people look shocking and dare not look directly at it, especially this guy's eyes are white, not black at all, which makes people feel cold all over. "You, who are you?" The skinny warrior's divine sense swept over him, and found that the other party actually had the cultivation base of the Void King's third-layer realm, and his heart suddenly became cold. He and the fat warrior are only at the first level of Void King, but the other party is two small realms higher than them. Although it seems that this brawny man is not in his prime, he just killed the fat man with his punch. Judging from the power of the warrior, he is by no means an opponent. "The one who sent you on the road." The brawny man in hair snorted coldly. The tower-like body only swayed slightly in place, and then suddenly disappeared. Seeing this, the thin warrior immediately yelled, "My friend, if you have something to say, let's talk about it. We have no grievances or enmity with you, so what's the matter?" Although he said so in his mouth, he immediately sacrificed his own protective secret treasure. Turn into a layer of light curtain to protect the whole body. The voice of the brawny man suddenly sounded from behind him, extremely cold, like the call of the god of death. "What can I say to bullying scum like you? Go to hell." As the words fell, a machete suddenly appeared in his hand. When the holy yuan was poured in, the sound of a tiger howling came from the machete, and a huge phantom of a tiger's head appeared on the blade, opening its bloody mouth bite towards the skinny warrior. The skinny warrior turned pale with shock, and yelled, "I'm going to fight you." Although his cultivation base is two small levels lower than the opponent's. But if he really desperately tried his best, he felt that there was still a glimmer of hope to escape. The reason why the fat warrior was killed with a single punch was only because he was careless and didn't even sacrifice the secret treasure. Now that he defends the secret treasure to protect the whole body, he will definitely not be killed by a single blow. But the development of the matter was beyond his expectation. The other party's big knife slashed over, it was destructive. The momentum is like a broken bamboo, directly breaking through his own defense. The momentum is unabated on him. No. Possible. The skinny warrior was stunned, looking at the huge wound on his chest that spread from his shoulder to his lower abdomen, looked up at the shaggy man, and said shyly, "Are you a Taoist?" Quote. At that moment just now, he clearly sensed the coming of a power that only Daoyuan warriors had, and the big knife in the opponent's hand was obviously also a Daoyuan-level secret treasure. That's why he can easily break through his own defenses and give himself a fatal blow. People who are about to die, why ask more questions? When the words fell, blood gushed out from the thin warrior's body like a fountain, and his whole body split in two. All internal organs are exposed. The air is full of blood. Luo Bing was lying on the ground, shaking violently all over, his beautiful eyes were wide open, his jaw was trembling constantly, he turned his head and retched. She has been pampered since she was a child, but has she ever seen such a bloody and cruel scene? The strong visual impact made her unable to bear it all at once. After vomiting for a long time, Luo Bing only spit out all the bile, and Luo Bing felt better. With a pale face, he turned to look at the shaggy man, with a grateful expression on his face, and asked in a trembling voice, are they dead? The burly-haired man gave her a cold look. For some reason, a trace of disgust flashed in that one eye, and he didn't intend to answer, he just snorted coldly and put away his long knife. Then he walked in front of Luo Bing, stretched out his hand and tapped her body a few times. Luo Bing's sealed cultivation base was untied at once, and the holy yuan began to flow in the meridian again. She stood up tremblingly, looked at the body of the fat and thin warrior next to her with a face of fear, and quickly looked away, holding her hand covering her mouth, she retched again. The brawny man in hair didn't say a word, he just stood there and watched with cold eyes. After a while, Luo Bing raised his head, looked at the shaggy man and said, thank you, thank you. She thanked her constantly and sincerely. After all, if it wasn't for the sudden appearance of this shaggy man, what awaited her just now would be an extremely tragic fate. She had never encountered such a crisis, and at that critical moment, she kept imagining that someone could show up and save her. Someone really came to save her. Although this person looked a little scary and his appearance was terrifying, Luo Bing was not so afraid of him for some reason. On the contrary, his burly figure like a steel tower gave her an indescribable sense of security. Luo Bing couldn't help but imagine that if he could be protected by such broad wings, he would never encounter misfortune in the future, right? This feeling was never given to him by his father or even Chu Yu. For some reason, her heart suddenly beat a lot, and a strange feeling slowly grew in her atrium. You, what's your name? Luo Bing looked at the strong man timidly and asked softly. The thick-haired man glanced at her, his one-eyed eyes were indifferent. Luo Bing was so stared at by him that his whole body turned cold, and he quickly lowered his head, not daring to look any further. Chai Hu. Two words suddenly burst out from the mouth of the shaggy man. Luo Bing was overjoyed when he heard the words, raised his head, and smiled. So it's Brother Chai, my name is Luo Bing. I'm the daughter of the city lord. I don't know if you've heard of it. After she finished speaking, she froze for a moment. Because apart from Chu Yu, she had never called other men so affectionately before, but in front of this strong man, she naturally called out that title. I didn't feel uncomfortable at all, but after shouting out, there was a feeling of joy deep in my heart, as if I had done something very remarkable. What's wrong with me? Luo Bingmei's eyes were blank. I know who you are. Chai Hu replied flatly, looking away, as if he didn't want his terrifying face to scare the other party. That's right, although I don't come out often, since Brother Chai lives in Tianhe City, he must have heard of me. Luo Bing pursed his lips and smiled. It made the whole world brighter. After hesitating for a while, she said, Brother Chai, I'm lost, can you take me home? She looked soft and weak, plus she was a little frightened just now, and her small face was still a little pale. Even if a man heard this, he would not refuse. Chai Hu nodded and said, yes. Luo Bing was overjoyed and said, thank you. But not today, Chai Hu added coldly. The smile on Luo Bing's face suddenly froze. Staring blankly at Chai Hu, he said, Brother Chai, what do you mean? Chai Hu said, I have something to ask Miss Luo for help. Come with me. Luo Bing was startled, recalling the scene where those two people treated him just now. His little face that had recovered a little blood color turned pale again, and while stepping back, he shook his head and said, You have to be like those two people. Treat me. If you think too much, I won't hurt you. Of course you have to cooperate with me obediently. While speaking, Chai-hu stretched out his hand to grab Luo Bing. No, Luo Bing yelled, but Chai-hu's cultivation was much higher than those two people just now, how could she resist? It was restrained in an instant. Luo Bing's whole body is like falling into an ice house, after today's series of encounters. Compared with all the ups and downs she encountered in her life, she never thought that she would drive away wolves at the front door and meet tigers at the back door, constantly beating Chai-hu's arm, and shouting coquettishly, bad people, you are all bad people. Quote. Chai-hu was unmoved, but said coldly, don't blame me for being rude to you if you move around again. Luo Bing froze when he heard the words, but soon, he opened his mouth and bit the back of Chai-hu's hand. This bite was firm, and soon, Luo Bing's mouth was filled with blood, and his mouth was full of bloody breath, but he did not let go. Chai-hu is a martial artist at the 3rd level of King Shu. If he really wants to get rid of Luo Bing, he only needs to use a little force to shatter a mouthful of her teeth. But for some reason, Chai-hu did not do this. He stared at Luo Bing who was biting the back of his hand, swallowing his own blood without letting go, and instinctively protecting himself. Together, gently cut on Luo Bing's neck. The strength was quite well grasped. Luo Bing just let out a groan, and fell down limply. Although he was unconscious, 2 lines of tears slowly slipped down from the corners of his eyes. Then, Chai-hu bent down and picked her up, his body swayed, and disappeared in place, leaving only the remnant body of the fat and thin warrior from before. Sky Puppet Building. When Yang Kai returned Shishiren, he saw Yi Qinghan walking anxiously at the door, looking out constantly. After seeing Yang Kai, he greeted him with a sigh of relief, and said, Young Master Yang, where have you been? Yang Kai Dao. Walk around casually. While speaking, he glanced at Yi Qinghan and said with a smile, what? Worried that I will leave without saying goodbye? Yi Qinghan waved his hand and said, no, it's just that young Master Yang has disappeared, and no one answered when I asked. Yang Kai Dao. Don't worry, I won't break my promise to you. Well, I wanted to let you know when I left just now, but there seems to be more than one person in your room, so I didn't bother you, he. Yi Qinghan blushed all of a sudden, and spat, I hate it. She stomped her feet and ran into the inner hall as if fleeing. To be continued. R527. Chapter 2302 Take What You Want. Phone reading. The next day, in the city lord's mansion, the mansion was decorated with lanterns and festoons, pipes and music played together, and it was very lively. Web links hollow diamond down pointing arrow. Today is the day of Tianhe City Lord Luo Jin's concubine acceptance ceremony. Guests from all over the world came to congratulate him. Horse-drawn carriages loaded with congratulatory gifts came in an endless stream. Recorded by people, sorted into categories, and collected in the warehouse. Everyone in the entire city lord's mansion was all smiling, as if they were married. At the gate of the city lord's mansion, there are handsome servants and beautiful maids to welcome the passing guests. They line up in 2 rows, and all of them are full of smiles and courteous. Whenever a guest arrives, the master of ceremonies will shout out the sect affiliation of the guest, attracting the attention of all. After entering the city lord's mansion, someone led them to the inner hall, and they were arranged in different positions for banquets according to their status. Those representatives of the sects who are in full swing and powerful are naturally arranged at the forefront, followed by other sects or families that are slightly inferior. The further you go, the lower the status of the representatives. No one dared to have any objection to such an arrangement. Everyone knew how powerful they were, how far they sat, and how important each faction was. The arrangements for the city lord's mansion must have been drawn up long ago, and naturally it will not cause other people's displeasure. Yang Kai followed Chen Yizong and others to this place and looked around curiously. It was the first time for him to participate in someone else's wedding. Although it was just a concubinage ceremony, it was also a major event related to a lifetime, and it was quite novel to see. This lively and festive scene reminded him of Su Yan, Shan Shang, Shan Qinglo and Shui Yu involuntarily. Deep down in my heart, I blamed myself for a while. When I left my hometown Starfield, I should have made a good arrangement to let them feel the happiness that women should have. Think about it now, but I owe them a lot. He didn't want to come here today, but Yi Qinghan invited her a few times, and Yang Kai didn't want her to think wildly, lest he leave without saying goodbye, so he simply came here with Chen Yizong and others. Du Xian and the others also brought some congratulatory gifts from the sect, although they were not very precious. But there are quite a few of them. They were already loaded in a carriage long before they came in, and were handed over to the servants of the city lord's mansion to put them in the back hall. Then, under the leadership of another servant, he entered the inner hall where the ceremony was held. The inner hall is quite large, and it is not crowded with hundreds of wine tables. After Chen Yizong and others arrived, it was already bustling with people. Gather together and talk loudly. Laughing, this kind of occasion is a good opportunity for many forces to connect with each other and enhance mutual communication. The servant leading the way at the front brought Yi Qinghan and others to a wine table in the middle, and said with a smile, "Your lords are here, please wait a moment, the ceremony is about to begin." After speaking, this person will leave. Wuma heard the words. A look of surprise flashed across his face, and he grabbed the servant by the collar. He said in a low voice, "Our location is right here. Are you sure? The position of this wine table is not in the front, but a bit in the middle and back. The dozen or so wine tables around this place, except for the Chenyi sect, are all small families and small sects. There may only be one Daoyuan state in the clan sect, which is different from the big families in Fenggalan City. The strength is quite. Although the Chenyi sect does not have an emperor senior realm powerhouse sitting in it. But there are a lot of Daoyuanjing, and it is impossible to be arranged here anyway. Even if it is not the most front tables, it will definitely not be far behind. Such an arrangement is obviously a kind of contempt and insult." The servant was startled by the Wuma, and panicked. The little one is only responsible for guiding the guests to the corresponding wine table. "I don't know anything else, please spare my life, my lord." Wuma let go. Du Xian frowned, and ordered lightly, "Senior brother." Wuma seemed to want to say something, but he saw Du Xian winking at him. He turned his head and looked around, and saw many people staring at him with wide-eyed eyes. His actions had already attracted many people. Less people's attention. "Since it's here, it's safe," Du Xian said softly. Hearing this, Wuma gritted his teeth and loosened the man's collar resentfully, but still had an expression of displeasure. "Sit down first, let others see how you look." Yi Qinghan frowned and took the seat first. The other Chiba sect disciples also sat down quietly, but none of them looked very good. Wuma gritted his teeth and said, "Senior brother and sister, they are clearly embarrassing me, how can you bear it?" Du Xian glanced at him and said, "So what if you can't bear it? Are you going to blow up this place or are you going to kill that old man?" Wuma muttered, "I didn't say that, but so many people watched them arrange us in such a backward position, it was clearly intentional." Yi Qinghan said, "Who said this is someone else's territory? If there is a disturbance, it will not be good for us." Du Xian snorted coldly. "Luo Jin is sure that we will swallow this dumb loss, remember today's shame, and pay it back double in the future." Wuma looked angry, but he also knew that there was no way to change the situation in front of him, but the weird eyes of the surrounding warriors looking at this place and the whispering voices made him always feel like he was laughing at himself and others, and he felt like sitting on pins and needles all of a sudden. "I feel uncomfortable all over." And at this moment, Du Xian suddenly stabbed Yi Qinghan's arm quietly, and said in a low voice, "Since you came in, someone has been watching you." "Who is it?" Yi Qinghan turned around with a suspicious look on her face, and immediately saw Chu Yu sitting at the front table, and sure enough, he was staring at her with burning eyes. She hastily spat. "Don't talk nonsense, he didn't even look at me." Du Xian smiled. "If you're not looking at you, you're looking at someone. Junior sister Yizi is very fragrant and beautiful, how can this little bastard Chu Yu resist your charm?" Yi Qinghan blushed and said angrily, "The more you talk, the less serious you are. You are a senior brother, you have to set an example." Du Xian couldn't help smiling. Yi Qinghan looked at him, but her face was full of sweetness. How could she not know that Du Xian was jealous? Wuma suddenly interjected at this moment, "That bastard actually sent someone over." Du Xian and Yi Qinghan turned their heads and saw that they had been following Chu Yu's side all the time, and an old man protecting him was walking towards this side at a leisurely pace. Du Xian frowned. "What does this kid want to do?" Yi Qinghan snorted and said, "What does he do? After attending this ceremony, we will return to the sect. I don't want to stay in this kind of place for a moment." While speaking, the old man had already come to the table of several people and stood still, cupped his fist slightly, and said, "Trouble you." As a senior, he was so polite, Du Xian couldn't bear to shake his face, he clasped his fists and replied, "Senior Li is polite." He paused, and asked, "I don't know why Senior Li is here." The old man surnamed Li said indifferently, "At the order of my young master, I would like to invite one person to come over." Hearing this, Du Xian couldn't help but look at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan said impatiently, "Go back and tell your son, I don't have the skills." The old man surnamed Li looked at Yi Qinghan with a strange expression, and said with a smile, "Young suzerain is thinking too much, my son is not asking for young suzerain but this little brother." While speaking, he pointed at Yang Kai. Yi Qinghan blushed all of a sudden, and said in embarrassment, "Please, what is he doing?" Du Xian and the others also had stunned expressions on their faces. Like Yi Qinghan, everyone thought that the old man surnamed Li came here to invite Yi Qinghan. After all, Chu Yu had always been interested in Yi Qinghan. With such a drama, Yi Qinghan couldn't step down immediately. The old man surnamed Li said, "Young master didn't say anything, and I don't know, I just asked the old man to come here to invite this little brother to come over." Hearing what he said, everyone turned their attention to Yang Kai. Looking at it, the corners of his mouth twitched. I saw that Yang Kai brought the fruit plate on the table to him at some point, holding a spiritual fruit in his hand, and put it in his mouth to eat it with great relish, and on the table in front of him, put a few more. I don't know when he started eating the fruit cores, but after such a short effort, he almost ate half of those spiritual fruits. The eating face was beaming and gobbling it up, like a ghost reincarnated from starvation for hundreds of years, which made several Chenny sect disciples dumbfounded. What's more, because the old man surnamed Li came to this table suddenly, many people were looking at this side curiously. When they saw Yang Kai eating like this, they couldn't help shaking their heads and sighing, with contempt in their eyes, thinking that this guy probably he is a country bumpkin who has never seen anything in the world, and a plate of spiritual fruit will make him make a fool of himself. Several disciples of Chen Yizong felt uncomfortable all over. "Young Master Yang." Yi Qinghan's face was on fire, and she lightly poked him, signaling him to restrain himself. Yang Kai turned his head, stuffed his mouth with an unknown fruit, his mouth was full of saliva, and he ate it loudly. He passed the fruit plate in his hand to Yi Qinghan, and said, "You want it? If you want it, you can take it." The corners of Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched, and his blushing became even more intense. However, Yang Kai seemed to be ignorant, and handed the fruit plate to the other Chenny sect disciples, saying, "Don't be too polite, it tastes very good, eating more can improve your cultivation, this spirit fruit should be fresh, the ones that were picked not long ago are delicious." Several Chenny sect disciples couldn't laugh or cry, they didn't know the details of Yang Kai, and they didn't know what Yi Qinghan was going to do with him all the time. Seeing him so embarrassing, they all turned their heads away, and looked like they were with this person. Unfamiliar look. Cough. Du Xian coughed lightly, and said, "Young Master Yang, this Senior Li is looking for you." "Where is Senior Li?" Yang Kai said, "What is Senior Li?" "This little brother, we meet again." The veins on the forehead of the old man surnamed Li were throbbing. He was left standing here for a long time, annoyed. Only then did Yang Kai look up at him, grinning, and said, "So it's you, what are you doing here if you don't follow Chu Yu?" To be continued. Chapter 2303 No Loyalty. Phone reading. My son has invited my little brother to come over to discuss something important. The old man surnamed Li suppressed the unhappiness in his heart, and said in a deep voice. "No." Yang Kai refused without thinking. As soon as the words came out, everyone was shocked. The warriors who were watching the scene curiously stared wide-eyed, staring at Yang Kai in astonishment, thinking that this guy didn't know who he was from the Chenny sect, but he was so handsome that he dared to directly invite Chu Yu to invite him. Rejected. The inner hall, which was originally noisy, suddenly became quiet for a moment. The old man surnamed Li also didn't expect Yang Kai to refuse so simply, his old face pulled down in an instant, and he said in a deep voice, "Little brother, seeing that you are young, your hearing is not good, old man." Once again. Yang Kai smiled and interrupted him. "You said 100 times that I won't go, don't you see that I'm busy?" While speaking, he picked up another spiritual fruit and stuffed it into his mouth. The face of the old man surnamed Li sank, and he said, "Little brother, you should think clearly before answering." Yang Kai raised his brows, and said arrogantly, "What? Threatening me? This is the city lord's concubine ceremony. If you dare to make trouble here, believe it or not, I will tell the city lord to throw you out." He shouted so loudly that the guests farther away looked over curiously. Cold sweat suddenly broke out on the forehead of the old man surnamed Li, and he was embarrassed and annoyed for a while. Although he was not very afraid of Luo Jin, if he did something difficult and bullying in front of everyone, he was afraid that it would also damage the Tianzhou Palace, fame. Yang Kai continued to bite the spirit fruit, and said vaguely in his mouth, "Boss is not young, and he often makes people angry. Have you lived on dogs all your life?" PFF'd. Yi Qinghan picked up the water glass and took a sip of water to hide the pleasure on his face, but he spit out a sip of water. "You." The old man surnamed Li was furious. Yang Kai snorted. "Don't you, me, Chu Yu wants to talk to me. Tell him to come over by himself, and figure it out. He is looking for this young master, not this young master looking for him." After finishing speaking, he murmured in a low voice with disgust on his face, "It's really sick, and I don't know where the sense of superiority comes from." Then he continued to fight against the fruit plate in front of him. "Boy, you are fine. I remember you." The old man surnamed Li was really choked with anger. He waved his sleeves and left angrily. Appreciation, but today he was humiliated and reprimanded by a young man in public. If he didn't have some scruples in his heart and didn't want to make things big, he would have been unable to restrain himself and teach Yang Kai a lesson. But today's shame, he naturally kept it in his heart, and waited until the concubine ceremony was over, and then asked Yang Kai to look good. After the old man surnamed Li left, Wuma immediately looked at Yang Kai with bright eyes, and said excitedly, "Brother Yang, I like you so much." Yang Kai was shocked all over, looking at Wuma with a pale face, swallowed and said, "I'm only interested in women." Wuma's face was filled with embarrassment. Said, "Brother Yang, that's not what I meant. I just wanted to say, what you did just now was too depressing." Since entering the city yesterday, Wuma had been holding back his anger, but the scene just now made him see it in his eyes and feel refreshed in his heart. The disciples of Chiba sect have many scruples. Unable to act rashly like Yang Kai, he can only bear the humiliation here, but Yang Kai doesn't need to worry too much, he can do whatever he wants. Although Du Xian also looked to relieve his hatred, he was a little worried. After all, Yang Kai humiliated the old man surnamed Li in public, and Tianzhou Palace didn't know if he would let it go, not to mention that if Tianzhou Palace and Tianhe City are in a fight, what if something happens on their way back to Chenizong? With hands and feet, you're in big trouble. Just when he was worried, he felt a pair of tender hands holding his big hands. Du Xian looked up, and saw Yi Qinghan looking at him with a smile in his beautiful eyes, and said in a low voice, "Brother, don't worry, young Master Yang, just act. He has his reasons." Du Xian's expression changed, although he didn't know why Yi Qinghan had such confidence in Yang Kai, but he was also infected. He nodded slightly, and felt relieved. On the other side, the old man surnamed Li returned to Chu Yu's side and whispered for a while. Chu Yu looked up at Yang Kai's direction, frowned, and slowly got up after pondering for a moment. He actually walked over here. The faces of the Chenny sect members all changed, as if facing a formidable enemy. Only Yang Kai was still chewing the spirit fruit, making a crisp sound. After a while, Chu Yu brought the two old men to the table of Chenizong. Du Xian got up immediately, and shouted in a low voice, "Brother Chu, this is the place where the city lord accepts concubines, and the ceremony will start soon. Don't you want to upset the city lord?" Chu Yu looked at him and said, "Don't worry, I'm not here to cause trouble, I just want to say a few words to this brother Yang." Just to say a few words. Du Xian frowned. He really didn't understand why Chu Yu didn't hesitate to come here in person, but also to talk to Yang Kai. After all, judging from yesterday's situation, these two people didn't know each other at all before. What grievances can there be between them? Chu Yu patted Du Xian on the shoulder, let him sit down, walked to Yang Kai's side, and gave the Chiba sect disciple who was sitting next to Yang Kai a wink. The Chenny sect disciple frowned, but still gave up his seat. Chu Yu clapped his hands on the folding fan, put the fan away, sat beside Yang Kai, and said, "Brother Yang, right?" Yang Kai didn't raise his head, and said, "Brother Chu, I saw that your seal is black today, your eyes are scattered, your lips are cracked and your tongue is scorched, your soul is scattered, and your face is bright red. I'm afraid there may be some bloody disaster." Chu Yu was taken aback, the corners of his mouth slightly raised, and he sneered, "Brother Yang is also good at seeing people's faces, and is proficient in divination." Yang Kai squinted at him and said, "It's not good, it's just that you have a dead air lingering around you, and it must be a big disaster today." "It's a joke." Chu Yu sneered, "Today is the city lord's concubine ceremony, and the sky is full of joy. How can there be a bad omen? Believe it or not is up to you." Yang Kai pouted. Chu Yu frowned slightly, and said, then according to Brother Yang, how should we resolve it? It's important to pack up your things and get out. Yang Kai said casually, and then looked at him with disdain, you want me to teach you such a simple thing? Chu Yu was speechless for a while, rubbed his forehead and said, stop making trouble, I came here to ask Brother Yang a question. What? Chu Yu's lips parted and closed. However, no sound came out, obviously using the secret technique of sound transmission. This made Du Xian, Yi Qinghan and the others curious, and they didn't know what question Chu Yu asked Yang Kai. After careful observation, Yang Kai showed a treacherous smile after listening, and said, didn't go back. Brother Chu, you are in big trouble now. Will you die if you keep your voice down? Chu Yu gritted his teeth and looked at Yang Kai. Yang Kai nodded and said, okay. The words fell. He also transmitted voice, and said, the little girl named Luo Bing didn't go back after going out with you yesterday. Are you sure? Chu Yu nodded and said, I went to look for her last night, but her personal maid said that she hadn't seen her back. I went to look for her again today, but she still disappeared. Yang Kai laughed and said, your city lord doesn't know about this, right? Chu Yu Dao, your majesty the city lord knows, is it okay? The Lord City Master has 14 concubines, but he has never had any heirs. There is only such a daughter, who is regarded as a treasure on weekdays. If he knows that Luo Bing is gone, Tianhe City will not be overturned today. God, how can you and I sit here in peace? The person is gone, shouldn't you look for it? Ask me what to do. Yang Kai looked puzzled. Because you left the shop yesterday, Luo Bing followed you out. Chu Yu replied. Yang Kai narrowed his eyes and said, Brother Chu, what he said is as if I abducted Miss Luo Bing. No, nature is the best. I only hope that she can come back safely today. If so, let the past be the past, but if she loses a hair, I will let the person who hurt her experience the torture of the world. Chu Yu as he spoke, there was a chill in his eyes. Yang Kai sneered and said, Brother Chu threatened the wrong person. After I left the shop yesterday, I went directly back to the Sky Puppet Tower, but I didn't see Miss Luo Bing. You can ask someone from the Sky Puppet Tower to confirm this, or you can ask Qian Yizong and the others. Let's talk about it again. I'm new here, and I have no enmity with Sky Crane City, so why bother Miss Luo Bing? Really? Chu Yu's eyes narrowed. Yang Kai hummed. If someone really provokes me, I will personally tell him the consequences, such a despicable thing as abducting people's children. Do you think I will do it? Chu Yu's expression changed, and he said, okay, I believe you. Although Chu and Brother Yang haven't met a few times, but Brother Yang's straightforward personality is not familiar at all. You shouldn't be so despicable. But if Brother Yang has, please also tell Chu Mo about Luo Bing's news. Chu Mo is very grateful. It's easy to say. Yang Kai nodded slightly. Farewell. Chu Yu cupped his hands and was about to get up. Yang Kai pushed him back to the chair and sat down. Brother Yang, what else is there? Chu Yu asked with a frown. It's nothing, I just want to ask Brother Chu to do a little favor. Yang Kai smiled. That smile was full of evil and treacherous taste, which made Chu Yujian's heart suddenly burst, and a bad premonition came to his heart. What's the matter? Chu Yu asked in a low voice. Yang Kai Dao, can you ask Brother Chu to help us change seats? Chu Yu asked doubtfully, change seats? Not bad. Yang Kai nodded, smiled and said, the light here is not very good, I don't like it very much, I want to change to a brighter place. The corners of Chu Yu's mouth twitched, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. He wiped it with his hand and said, then, where do you want to change? Yang Kai pointed his hand and said, I think it's pretty good there, and that table happens to be empty. Chu Yu's face darkened, and he said, do you know who is sitting there? Yang Kai smiled and said, in short, people can sit. No, this is absolutely impossible. Chu Yu waved his hands quickly. Yang Kai's face turned cold, and he said, Brother Chu is so mean, I readily agreed to the matter you entrusted to me just now, why are you pushing back and forth when it's my turn to ask you to do some small things? Isn't it too shameless? Chu Yu's eyes widened all of a sudden, thinking, what kind of loyalty do I have with you? What's more, what you said just now was just perfunctory, how can you see the slightest sincerity? To be continued. Chapter 2304 Auspicious Time. Phone reading. Chu Yu sighed, Brother Yang, aren't you embarrassing me? Read the latest chapter first. Yang Kai smiled and said, don't talk about being so ignorant, this matter is just a matter of effort for you, and it's not that you want to take off your clothes and run naked here, come on, change it or not. Chu Yu looked at him twitchingly, and said, so what if you change it? So what if you don't change it? Yang Kai chuckled, patted Chu Yu's shoulder, wiped the juice on his clothes, and said, if we change, then we are good friends, hello, everyone. If you don't change, I can't say that I have to go to the Lord City Lord to have a good chat, and ask his precious daughter about it. Enough. Chu Yu's face turned cold, and he slapped Yang Kai's hand down, staring at him and gritted his teeth, you threaten me. Is there? Yang Kai blinked, brother Chu misunderstood, I was just discussing with you. Chu Yu said angrily, I know I shouldn't ask you for news about Luo Bing, you despicable villain. Yang Kai smiled and said, young man, don't get angry so easily, it will hurt you. Chu Yu looked at him coldly, and after a long while, he turned around and left his seat, and came directly to a man who looked like a housekeeper, and whispered a few words. Hearing this, the butler frowned slightly, as if he looked embarrassed, and glanced at the place where Chen Yizong and the others were, before shaking his head slightly. But Chu Yu didn't know what else to say to him, so the housekeeper nodded and agreed with an ugly face. A while later, the butler walked up to Chen Yizong and the others, cupped his fists and said, my lords, everything is busy today, and the servants seem to be negligent. The seats of your lords are not here. Please follow the little old man to change seats. Please forgive me a lot. Du Xian, Yi Qinghan and the others were taken aback when they heard the words, not knowing what the hell the butler was doing. Yang Kai smiled, cupped his fists and said to the butler, thank you. While speaking, he winked at Yi Qinghan and the others. Although everyone is still confused. But he still stood up, and under the leadership of the butler, he walked directly to an empty table at the front, under the arrangement of the butler. Sit down in turn. After the arrangements were made, the housekeeper left. Yi Qinghan just turned her head, looked at Yang Kai and asked, young Master Yang, what is going on? What did you say to Chu Yu? She knew that with Chen Yizong's current strength and the relationship between Sky Crane City, it was impossible to get this kind of treatment. The only explanation is Yang Kai's previous secret conversation with Chu Yu. After all, Chu Yu went to find the butler after he left, and immediately after that, the positions of himself and others would be changed. Du Xian and the others also looked at Yang Kai with a good face, expecting him to give an answer. Yang Kai smiled and said, it's nothing, brother Chu and I hit it off right away, and we met each other again. He felt that the city lord's mansion had neglected you too much, so he offered to change the table for you. Everyone obviously didn't believe it. Yi Qinghan said, I believe you are a ghost. Yang Kai said, brother Chu is still very good. Many guests noticed the change here and were secretly shocked. After all, everyone knew a little about the relationship between Chen Yizong and Sky Crane City. At this moment, he was suddenly moved to the frontmost table. This small anomaly inevitably made people suspicious, and secretly guessed whether Chen Yizong and Sky Crane City had reconciled. If this is the case, then they probably should reconsider whether they want to make friends with Chen Yizong. The atmosphere in the inner hall suddenly became strange. Chen Yizong and the others were also fidgeting, and they could always feel that many people around them were looking at them with strange eyes, which made people feel uncomfortable. As time passed, the empty tables and chairs in the inner hall were gradually filled by people who came later, and the noisy atmosphere in the inner hall was gradually restored. At a certain moment, I heard someone shouting, my lord is here. As soon as the words were spoken, the entire inner hall fell silent. Everyone looked at the past in one direction. I saw a person over there wearing a bright red robe, stepping out, with a happy smile on his face, and kept clapping his hands in all directions. I have seen the Lord City Lord. I haven't seen you for a long time. The City Lord's demeanor is even more impressive than before, which makes people envious. Congratulations to my lord, the City Lord, for marrying Mei Jiaoniang as he wished. Your lord is really a role model for our generation. On this great day, I wish the Lord City Lord good health, prospering martial arts, and continuous succession of children. The family is immortal. From all directions, the guests congratulated, all of them were full of smiles, trying their best to flatter. The person in the scarlet robe was also exchanging pleasantries, with a very happy smile. This is Luo Jin. Yang Kai rolled his eyes and asked Yi Qinghan in a low voice. With a sullen face, Yi Qinghan nodded and said, it's him. The corner of Yang Kai's mouth twitched. If you didn't say anything, I thought it was Luo Jin's father. It was also the first time for Yang Kai to see the city lord of Sky Crane City. He thought that if this guy could take on 15 concubines, he must be good-looking and energetic, too old. But the person I saw in front of me was a half-aged old man with gray and sparse hair. Although he had already achieved a good cultivation level, his energy and blood were in vain. He was obviously in his twilight years. Hope. The bright red robe he was wearing further set off his old age. Whose girl is really blind? Wuma also kept shaking her head, feeling sad for the woman who married Luo Jin today. Shut up, watch out for misfortune. Du Xian gave Wuma a hard look, and said in a low voice, it's not like you don't know which one of Luo Jin's concubines married him voluntarily. Wuma snorted, it's because I have done too many bad things to bully men and women, that's why I have no heirs. Good and evil will be rewarded in the end, and the law of heaven is reincarnation. You still say? Wuma curled her lips and said, all right, no more. The scene was lively and extremely festive. After a while, a voice shouted out, the auspicious time has come. All of a sudden, the surrounding pipes and music were playing together, and the gongs and drums were loud, as if the roof was about to be lifted. Luo Jin's face also emitted a burst of red light, all dressed, and looked out the door with a smile on his face. Everyone followed his gaze and all stared there, all of them smiling, their eyes full of anticipation. It seems that there is a melody rising from the outside, accompanied by the sound of the melody. A procession of seeing off the bride gradually came into everyone's eyes. A woman dressed as a matchmaker walked in front, twisting her bucket-like fat waist, with a sweet smile on her face. Accompanied by a 4-person sedan chair, he walked slowly towards this side, showing off to the best of his ability. Behind the sedan chair, there are boys and girls following, constantly throwing the petals in the flower basket in their hands. Where the sedan chair passes, the petals paved the way, and the fragrance of the flowers filled the air. After the flower basket boys and girls, there are 2 rows of boys and girls, each carrying a lantern, and follow behind. There are many festive characters such as 100 years of marriage, and a happy marriage, among the lanterns. After that, came the team to see off the relatives, all women, all crying pear blossoms with rain. It seems to be a member of the woman's husband's family. After a short distance of tens of feet, it took a full cup of tea time before the sedan chair came to the entrance of the inner hall. Get off the sedan chair. Someone shouted, and the sedan chair fell smoothly. In front of the matchmaker, she opened the sedan chair curtain, stretched out her hand, and immediately after that, a fair-skinned Rui approached her. This small hand alone made countless men's eyes light up. That jade hand is fair and flawless, and the skin is frosty saishui. It seems that blowing a bomb can break it, making people daydream, thinking that a person with such beautiful hands must be enchanting. But this man was going to become Luo Jin's 15th concubine. It's really embarrassing, envious and jealous. Immediately afterwards, a bright red embroidered shoe protruded from the sedan chair and landed on the red carpet at the door, and the dazzling and beautiful figure came into view. The bride's phoenix crown and chape. There was a red hijab on her head, and a golden phoenix embroidered on her wedding dress, ready to fly. The phoenix crown and tassels covered with pearls and jade covered her imaginative face. At this moment, countless people scolded their mothers. Without him, the phoenix crown and red hijab worn by the bride seemed to have the effect of isolating the prying eyes of the spirit, and it is an impressive secret treasure. The spiritual thoughts released by all the warriors who wanted to secretly look at the bride's face were blocked by an invisible barrier, and they couldn't see what was going on inside. Luo Jin seemed to know what everyone was thinking at the moment. He looked around and warned secretly before smiling contentedly. Yang Kai is also pouted fiercely at this moment. Just like the others, he quietly released his spiritual thoughts to see what the bride looks like, but he didn't want to be hindered by the secret treasure. This secret treasure is powerful. If he forcibly activates his divine sense, he can break through it and see the true face of Mount Lu, but this is a concubine ceremony after all, unnecessary trouble. So he just tried it a little bit, and didn't try again, just waited and watched quietly. At this moment, under the support and guidance of the matchmaker, the bride walked towards the inner hall step by step. Although she couldn't see her face clearly, but from the faint silhouette under the wedding dress, one could still see that this woman had a beautiful figure, and she must be a graceful person. Yang Kai looked at it, and suddenly frowned, as if he sensed something was wrong, but he couldn't tell what was wrong. What's more, the feeling of palpitation and irritability from yesterday suddenly came back, making him frown. Turning his head to look at Yi Qinghan and the others, he saw that they didn't notice. But the scene in front of her seems to have inspired a certain longing in Yi Qinghan's heart. She is looking at the bride who is walking step by step, with a look of anticipation in her beautiful eyes, as if she is fantasizing about the day she will have to be able to marry the person I love the most, like Feng Guanxiape. She glanced at Du Xian secretly, her little face flushed slightly. Not long after, a group of people finally reached the inner hall, and the matchmaker handed the ribbon to Luo Jin, and said with a smile, "Master, I will leave the bride to you, and you must treat her well in the future." Luo Jin laughed and said, "I will not let her be bullied at all." The matchmaker said, "The bride is so lucky. Why have I been so miserable in my life? I have never met a man like your lord." A group of people roared with laughter, and the lively atmosphere reached its peak in an instant. To be continued. XH 118. Chapter 2305 I disagree. In the inner hall, Luo Jin held the bride's ribbon, smiled slightly, and turned to walk towards the insider. At this time, on the table on the left of Yang Kai and the others, a gray-haired old man suddenly stood up, walked towards the two with a smile, and stood in front of them. With the sound of wind music and the silence of gongs and drums, the scene suddenly became solemn. The old man smiled and said, "I am very honored to be able to witness this marriage for the Lord City Lord." After a pause, he went on to say, "On this beautiful day, the two of you will tie the knot and establish the friendship between Qin and Jin. I hope that the two couples will love each other in the future and have a happy marriage for 100 years. You two can agree with each other?" Luo Jin smiled and said, "Luo agrees." The old man nodded, turned to the bride and asked, "What about you?" The bride's delicate body trembled slightly, and a pleasant voice came from the phoenix crown, "I." As soon as these words came out, Yang Kai's expression suddenly changed slightly, and the throbbing feeling in his heart became more and more intense. He always felt that he should be very familiar with this voice. Before he could continue to hear clearly who the voice was, he suddenly heard a trembling voice somewhere in the inner hall shouting, "I don't agree." As soon as the words came out, everyone was shocked. Everyone looked in the direction of the source of the sound, not knowing who was so daring and dared to make the city lord down in front of countless strong men. Luo Jin was even more angry, turned his head and shouted, "Over there, who is so bold?" His face was so ferocious that it was almost distorted. Today was the day of his concubine ceremony, and it was a time of celebration, but he never thought that he would be sabotaged by others at this critical moment, and he couldn't help but feel a strong murderous intent in his heart. There was a cold light in his eyes, and he carefully examined the direction of the source of the sound. He snorted coldly and said, "What? Have the guts to ruin my good deeds, but don't have the guts to stand up and admit it." Immediately, a guest nearby shouted, "Stand up obediently and apologize to the city lord. Maybe you can survive your death. If you dare to be stubborn, next year's today will be your death day." Luo Jin said, "Today is a day of great joy for me. I don't want to hurt people's lives. You stand up obediently. If I don't make things difficult for you, I will." After the words fell, somewhere in the crowd, a person suddenly stood up. The man's whole body was wrapped in a black robe, making it impossible to see his true face. But seeing this person's height and figure, it was obviously a woman. "Take it." Luo Jin waved his hand violently when he saw the man standing up. Hey, even a few warriors from the city lord's mansion rushed towards that person. The woman stood there, not seeming to panic at all. Seeing that those people were about to rush to her and capture her, she suddenly lifted the black scarf on her head, revealing her true face. Under the attention of everyone, all of them suddenly widened their eyes, and they were all dumbfounded, with expressions of disbelief on their faces. "What? This, miss?" The warriors of the city lord's mansion who rushed towards the woman were aggressive and planned to capture the woman directly, and then take her to a secret place to punish her. But when they saw her appearance, their faces changed drastically, and they withdrew their moves in midair. Landing in embarrassment, he was completely dumbfounded. Because they discovered that the person who destroyed the concubine ceremony at the critical moment was none other than the eldest lady of the city lord's mansion, Luo Bing. Chu Yu stood up abruptly, and stared at Luo Bing in astonishment, never thinking that Luo Bing had been in this inner hall all this time. And it also ruined the ceremony of the city lord. He only separated from Luo Bing yesterday, and Luo Bing was still fine at that time. In any case, I can't figure out why Luo Bing did such a thing after just one night. For a while, there was complete silence in the inner hall, and everyone looked at Luo Bing with weird expressions, not knowing what she was going to do. Binger. Luo Jin's body was also shaken, and he stared at Luo Bing with wide eyes. Why do you? Before he finished speaking, he seemed to have discovered something suddenly, and said in a deep voice, who bullied you? He saw his precious daughter's eyes were red and swollen, she had obviously been crying for a long time, and her voice was hoarse, so he didn't recognize Luo Bing's voice immediately. He instinctively thought that someone had bullied Luo Bing. Chu Yu quietly swallowed a mouthful of saliva, lest Luo Bing say his name. He thought that Luo Bing would do this all because of himself. No one bullies me. Luo Bing pursed her red lips. Is there really no one? Luo Jin narrowed his eyes and asked in a deep voice. Really not. Luo Bing shook his head and said after a moment of silence, Daddy, my daughter asks you for one thing. Luo Jin sighed, and said, I'll talk about what's going on later, you can go back to your room and rest first. He was annoyed deep in his heart, blaming Luo Bing for being so ignorant of the general situation, and for ruining himself in front of so many tyrants. He just wants to finish this concubine ceremony quickly, and then ask Luo Bing what's going on. Unexpectedly, Luo Bing didn't mean to be obedient, but just shook his head and said, No, I will ask you for this matter now, if it is later, it will be too late. Binger. Luo Jin shouted in a low voice with an angry expression on his face. Luo Bing instinctively shook his body, as if he was a little scared, but his eyes were extremely firm, still looking at his father, full of pleading. Looking at her like this, Luo Jin immediately knew that he must not be able to stop her, so he could only sigh, smiled at the guests, and said, Everyone is laughing, my little girl is spoiled by me so much, so she is a little messy, I hope it is not broken. Ladies and gentlemen. Everyone couldn't help but relax when they heard the words, thinking that they had heard that Luo Bing was favored by the city lord a long time ago, and they never thought that they were so favored by the city lord, and they dared to make such a mess during the concubine ceremony. They all expressed that it was okay, as if they were thinking of Luo Jin. Then Luo Jin looked at Luo Bing and said, Tell me, what do you want from Daddy? You chose this time, if it's too difficult, let's see how Daddy will deal with you later. Smile, obviously not really like this, but a performance of doting. The guests also laughed in good faith, praising the city lord for his fatherly love. Luo Bing bit her red lips, stretched her fingers around Luo Jin, and said, My daughter wants to beg Daddy, let her go. After the words fell, the inner hall, which had recovered a bit of festive atmosphere, fell into a weird silence again. Many guests opened their mouths wide, as if they couldn't believe their ears, but some others knew that today's event might be a bit embarrassing. It's over. I was a little uneasy for a while, and secretly checked Luo Jin's face. I saw the smile on Luo Jin's face froze all of a sudden, then gradually retracted, the gloomy face almost scraped off a layer of frost, and the eyes were gradually filled with anger. After a while, Luo Jin said, Binger, go down and rest, you are probably too tired. He originally thought that his daughter's objection to this marriage just now was an opportunity to blackmail him and ask him to agree to some difficult conditions for her. He was also fully prepared, but now it seems that things are not like this at all. Luo Bing is real against the marriage. How could Luo Jin agree? No matter how much he pampers Luo Bing, he will not let the bride go under the watchful eyes of all the people. If this is the case, what face will he have? Where is the majesty? In the future, I am afraid that he will no longer be able to control Sky Crane City and become the city lord of this place. Daddy, promise me, Luo Bing begged. Presumptuous. Luo Jin yelled angrily, looked at Luo Bing with hatred, and said, It seems that Daddy spoiled you too much before, and made you lose your sense of proportion. Go back to the room, without me. You are not allowed to take a step out of the door. Daddy, Luo Bing cried, she didn't do it voluntarily, why do you want to force others like this, can you let her go? Hiss. There was a sound of gasping for air. Although everyone knows in their hearts that almost none of Luo Jin's concubines married him voluntarily, but it's fine to keep this kind of thing in their stomachs, and no one will point it out, but if it is brought out in public, then the taste is different. But the person who said this was actually Luo Bing. All the warriors in the entire inner hall felt their hearts jump suddenly after hearing these words, and there was a strange feeling that a storm was coming, which made people uneasy. You let her go, my daughter will always be by my father's side, respect you, listen to your words, my daughter will never get into trouble again, and she will be obedient in the future. Luo Bing was still crying and begging. Luo Jin's face was almost distorted, livid, and shouted, What nonsense are you talking about? Luo Bing said, I'm not talking nonsense, I know who she is, and I also know why she married you, so just let her go. Luo Jin said angrily. What are you all looking at? The young lady has lost her mind and went crazy, why don't you hurry up and take her down to take care of her? Hearing his order, the warriors of the city lord's mansion who were at a loss started to act again, rushing towards Luo Bing one after another. However, at this moment, a person who had been sitting next to Luo Bing suddenly stood up, grabbed Luo Bing's neck, looked around everyone with a white eyeball, and snorted coldly, "Who dares? Come here, I'll crush her to death." The warriors of the city lord's mansion who rushed over were shocked, and fell down from midair again, flustered. The other guests who came to congratulate also stared wide-eyed again. They never expected that today's grand ceremony would be so undercurrent and full of twists and turns. It's him. Yang Kai frowned, looking at the one-eyed brawny man holding Luo Bing, a thoughtful look flashed across his face. He still remembered that when he was in the restaurant yesterday, he met this strong man. This guy seemed to be called Chai Hu. At that time, he left the restaurant early because of the friction and fight between him and another group of people. I never thought that this guy named Chai Hu would sneak into the grand ceremony and even dare to hold the young lady of the city lord's mansion hostage in full view of everyone. But this person only has the cultivation base of the third level of the Void King, even with Luo Bing in his hands, his fate is probably in jeopardy. Thinking of this, he looked at the bride who had been standing beside Luo Jin. Ever since he saw the bride, he had a strange feeling, but when he looked at this moment, he saw the bride's delicate body trembling, as if struggling with something. To be continued. Chapter 2306 Voluntary. During the grand ceremony, one-eyed Chai Hu pinched Luo Bing's slender neck with one hand, and pressed her back with the other, with the holy energy in his body surging, as if he was ready to strike at any time. The guards of the city lord's mansion looked at each other with embarrassment and resentment on their faces. They had a young lady as a hostage, and they didn't dare to act rashly, for fear of angering Chai Hu and hurting Luo Bing. If so, they would not die far. Anxiously, they all looked at Luo Jin, wanting to see how he would give instructions. Luo Jin's eyelids narrowed slightly, and he winked indistinctly. The guards understood, and quietly dispersed to surround Chai Hu to prevent him from escaping. And the guests at the table where Chai Hu and Luo Bing were originally had already dispersed and fled the moment Chai Hu stood up and held Luo Bing hostage. Old Luo Jin, if you still care about your daughter's life, let them live in peace. Chai Hu's single eye exuded a ferocious luster, and while he was vigilant about the movement around him, he shouted at Luo Jin. Luo Jin snorted coldly, raised his hand slightly to press back, signaled the guards to be safe, and then looked at Chai Hu and said, "I seem to have seen you somewhere." Chai Hu sneered, and said sarcastically, "I'm an unknown junior, so the city lord will not remember." Luo Jin said, "No matter what grievances I have with you, it has nothing to do with my little girl. You let her go, and I promise you to have a good talk with you." Chai Hu laughed loudly and said, "Talk? What's the point of talking with you, a despicable and shameless person? Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child?" Luo Jin said, "It seems that you have had a grudge against me for a long time. The words of Binger just now are also the reason why you threatened her." Hearing this, the guests around were stunned, thinking that no wonder Luo Bing made his father unable to step down on this occasion. It turned out that it was because of being forced. If so, it could explain why Luo Bing was so ignorant up. "That's what you say." Chai Hu snorted coldly, and had no intention of defending himself. "He didn't force me." At this moment, Luo Bing suddenly interjected, "Daddy, I said those words myself. You should let that girl go. What is wrong with her?" When Luo Jin heard this, his complexion suddenly sank. The expressions of the guests around were also colorful, and they really couldn't understand what was going on in the situation before them. Luo Bing was held hostage by this one-eyed strong man, and his wealth and life were in the hands of others, so why did he help him speak well? Luo Jin took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Binger, don't be afraid, Daddy will rescue you." After speaking, he looked at Chai Hu again, and said, "Your Excellency is so bold that you sneaked into the grand ceremony and hijacked my beloved daughter. What is the intention?" Chai Hu sneered, "Master City Master, why bother to ask knowingly, why I came here, others don't know, don't you know?" Luo Jin frowned, narrowed his eyes and said, "Your Excellency, draw a line. If it is possible, why not accept it? As long as the little girl is safe, I am willing to pay any price." He spoke righteous words and looked solemn, which aroused applause from the surrounding guests, who praised him one after another. Someone immediately said to Chai-hu, "My friend, you are too reckless to act like this. The lord of the city has always loved the people like a son, is diligent in city affairs, and has an excellent reputation. Miss Luo Bing is also innocent, pure and kind. What do you have to say? Can't you talk it out properly? If you insist on making it so that everyone can't get off the stage. Listen to me, let Miss Luo Bing go, the Lord's city lord will definitely not embarrass you. Yes, you let Miss Luo go, everything is negotiable. Hurry up and let him go, otherwise the city lord will not blame you, and I will also want you to look good." There was a commotion in all directions, with some people persuading each other with kind words and some with harsh words. Chai-hu seemed to become more nervous all of a sudden. He squeezed Luo Bing's hand with a little force, causing Luo Bing to have difficulty breathing, and his face turned pale. "Shut up!" Chai-hu yelled fiercely. Now he was in prison, surrounded by enemies, his nerves were already tense, and he became more and more upset after hearing the yelling from all around him. "Whoever dares to say another word, I will strangle her immediately, and I will do what I say." Chai-hu shouted with one eye. When the guests saw this, they dared to say no more, they all shut up, fearing that they would really anger this irrational guy and hurt Luo Bing. Luo Jin's complexion darkened, and he said in a low voice, "Tell me, what exactly do you want me to do?" Chai-hu turned his head, glared at Luo Jin, and said, "Let that person beside you go." "Who are you referring to?" Luo Jin asked knowingly. Chai-hu yelled, "If you dare to be so shameless again, I will take your daughter's life immediately." Luo Jin's complexion changed slightly, and he said, "Your Excellency is doing this, to snatch a kiss." Chai-hu sneered, and said, "She didn't marry you voluntarily, so how can you say that you are snatching the marriage? I just came to save people." Luo Jin said, "You didn't ask her, how do you know she didn't do it voluntarily?" Chai-hu said, "How could she be willing to marry you? What are you dreaming of?" Luo Jin smiled and said, "Have you misunderstood something? Although I don't recognize you, it seems that you and Zhou Jing should be friends, right? I admire you for doing this for a friend. As a clumsy Jing's friends are also friends of this seat, how about this? You can ask Zhou Jing yourself if she is willing to marry this seat. If she says no, this seat will let you go immediately, and I won't force others to make things difficult for you." Hearing this, Chai-hu's face changed several times, as if he couldn't believe his ears. He hesitated, "Is this true?" Luo Jin laughed and said, "Guests from all over the world are here, how can I lie under the watchful eyes of everyone?" After a pause, he continued, "Or is it that my friend is just here to make troubles and ruin my reputation? If so, I will definitely not spare you lightly." Someone answered, "That's right, we are all willing to testify for the city lord." "Boy, don't you really just come here to make trouble? If so, it would be too despicable." Chai-hu had a gloomy face, not being moved by the yelling from all directions. He pondered for a while, then nodded and said, "Okay, I will believe you just once." While speaking, he turned his head to look at the bride, and said in a deep voice, "Fifth sister, you heard what the city lord said just now. Tell me, did you marry him voluntarily, or was he threatened you? Don't worry, if you were really threatened and forced by him, the fourth brother will rescue you even if you risk your life. Your Excellency has worked hard, and I am grateful for Zhou Jing." Luo Jin smiled with a calm expression. "Shut up," Chai-hu shouted. Luo Jin smiled without saying a word. The bride, who had been standing beside him without moving a muscle, even when Chai-hu made trouble, suddenly became the focus of everyone's attention. Everyone looked at her, wanting to know what she would give, what kind of answer. Under the eyes of everyone, the bride's delicate body trembled for a while, and then Yue's voice came out from the red hijab. "I volunteer." "What?" Chai-hu's body shook, and he froze for a moment, never expecting to hear such an answer. But that voice was undoubtedly his fifth sister, not someone pretending to be. For a while, he couldn't accept such a result. Luo Jin looked at him, and said with a smile, "Your Excellency should understand, right? My seat and Zhou Jing hit it off right away, goodbye and love each other. If it weren't for this seat would not have married her." "Brother Chai." Luo Bing turned his head at this moment and looked at Chai-hu blankly. He couldn't understand why things were different from what Chai-hu said. After all, Chai-hu told her that today's bride was forced to marry for her father, but she heard a completely different answer from the bride. "Impossible, this is absolutely impossible," Chai-hu shouted. Luo Jin's complexion darkened, and he sternly said, I have given your excellency enough face. Considering that your excellency is my friend's face, I don't want to embarrass you. I hope your excellency will take care of yourself. That's right, friends, stop messing around, or everyone will lose face. Exactly, you let Miss Luo Bing go. I believe that with the capacity of the city lord, you won't really make things difficult for you. Wouldn't it be nice for everyone to sit at the same table and drink the wine for the feast? Enough is enough, kid. If you want to die, I don't mind giving you a ride. The surrounding guests were chattering again and again, their impression of Chai-Hu was extremely bad. It's impossible, Chai-Hu was still muttering, it's impossible for fifth sister to marry you voluntarily, she must have been forced by you. Big brother, second brother, are they right? What the hell are you talking about, kid? The crowd around the audience looked blank. Chai-Hu looked up to the sky and laughed loudly, the laughter was thunderous, extremely carefree, as if he had figured out something and untied his hard knot. After a while, he suddenly looked at Luo Jin, gritted his teeth and said, the old man is really insidious, let the eldest brother and the second brother force the fifth younger sister to marry you. If you don't want your daughter's blood to be splashed on the spot today, just listen to my orders obediently. Luo Jin got angry and shouted heavily, how dare you not keep your promise? Chai-Hu sneered, what credit do you have with a despicable villain like you? Today, no matter what, I will take fifth sister away. If anyone dares to stop me, I will kill her. Increased a little. Luo Bing exclaimed. Luo Jin turned pale with shock, and hurriedly said, wait a minute. Will you let him go? Chai-Hu yelled. Luo Jin's face sank like water, as if a storm was coming, the atmosphere in the inner hall was suppressed to the extreme, he gritted his teeth for a while, and then said, since you are so suspicious, let Zhou Jing explain it to you in detail. Quote. While speaking, he glanced at the bride beside him. When Chai-Hu heard the words, his expression brightened, and he shouted, fifth sister, come here first. And the bride, after hesitating for a moment, walked towards Chai-Hu step by step. I'm afraid this kid is going to be unlucky. On the wine table beside him, Yang Kai, who had been watching coldly, suddenly murmured softly. The members of the Chenny sect were all beaming and beaming after watching a good show. No matter what the purpose of Chai-Hu's trouble today, and no matter what the final result is, it has already damaged Luo Jin's face. Talking about today's events everywhere, people who don't know the truth will definitely feel that Luo Jin has done something to bully men and women, which has damaged his dignity and image. Chapter 2307 Purely Private Matter. Phone reading. When the Chenny sect heard what Yang Kai said, they all looked at him suspiciously, their faces blank. Copy URL access web links. Yang Kai grinned and said in a low voice, your city master looks like he has a plan in his chest, how can he be unprepared? Du Xian's complexion changed slightly, as if he had thought of something, he also replied in a low voice, young master Yang means that he is going to. Yang Kai shook his head, signaling him to wait and see. Over there, the bride with a phoenix crown and a red hijab on her head came to stand in front of Chai-Hu step by step. Chai-Hu looked at her with joy in his one-eyed eyes, and said, fifth sister, stand aside and replace her. Let me fly, I will let this old man release the eldest brother and the others, and then we will fly away and never return to Tianhekang. The bride obediently walked up to Chai-Hu and stood still without saying a word. Your excellency made a big fuss in my city lord's mansion today, and ruined my face, do you think you can get away? Luo Jin snorted coldly with a sneer on his face. It's man-made. Chai-Hu responded with a sneer. Luo Jin smiled meaningfully, and said, I think you'd better stay. Chai-Hu's complexion changed, and when he was about to say something, he suddenly felt a coolness coming from his back. The next moment, a palm was pressed on his back, and surging power poured into his body, making him tremble all over. Down, flew out directly. In midair, he turned his head and looked back in disbelief, and when he saw who the person who made the shot was, his eyes were full of grief and despair. Bump! Chai-Hu fell to the ground, smashed the table and chairs, but got up quickly, but under that palm, he seemed to have suffered serious injuries. So the moment he stood up, he opened his mouth and spit out a mouthful of blood. Swipe! The powerhouses of the city lord's mansion rushed over all of a sudden, and pressed several palms on him at the same time. The power in the palms surged, but they were stored but not released. After all, today is the city lord's concubine ceremony, it is really inappropriate to see blood. If not, Chai-Hu might be dead at this moment. After being restrained, Chai-hu staggered and seemed to be a little unsteady, looking at the bride with pain on his face, with blood spilling from his mouth. He cried out sadly, "Fifth sister, why is this?" The person who sneaked up on him before and directly injured him was the bride he was going to save on this trip. Until now, he still couldn't believe it was true. All this happened in the blink of an eye. Not only Chai-hu was stunned. Even the guests around opened their mouths wide and looked stunned. Only Luo Jin, who seemed to have expected it long ago, had a smile on his face. Yang Kai suddenly stood up, looking at the bride with burning eyes, his expression changing endlessly. "Evil spirit," Yi Qinghan frowned, covering her red lips with her hands. He whispered, "This bride is actually a member of the Yaozu." The moment the bride made her move just now was extremely short. But the power she exerted is quite different from Yuanli, with a pure demonic aura. Although there are some warriors from the human race who have cultivated the monster clan skills or secret techniques to make their own strength close to the demon energy, but they will definitely not be so pure. From this point of view, this bride is not a human race, but a member of the demon race. It is not that there are no monster races in the star realm. It's just that the monster race rarely comes to the human race area for activities, and even if they do, it is very rare. And will try to hide their whereabouts. After all, the race is different. It is inevitable that some people will have something different after seeing the Yaozu. There are not a few people who are aware of this like Yi Qinghan, and they all looked at the bride curiously for a while. And judging from the power fluctuations that emanated from the bride's attack just now, she is still a martial artist at the first level of Daoyuan. "Young Master Yang, what's wrong with you?" Seeing that Yang Kai's expression was wrong, Du Xian quickly asked. Yang Kai didn't care about it, he just stared at the bride, his body trembling slightly, as if he had discovered something serious. "Take it down and watch carefully. After the grand ceremony, I will have a detailed chat with him." Over there, Luo Jin waved his hand and ordered. The guards of the city lord's mansion nodded, and they all sealed Chai-hu's cultivation, and wanted to take him down. "Don't." Unexpectedly, there was a coquettish cry at this moment, and then everyone saw Luo Bing, who had escaped from the tiger's mouth, rushing straight towards Chai-hu, punching and kicking the guards, violently pull it away, and then open your arms to block Chai-hu, shaking your head constantly and saying, "Don't come over." She acted as if she wanted to protect Chai-hu, which made the guests dumbfounded again. They didn't know what was going on in her heart. After all, Chai-hu took her as a hostage before, and everyone saw her. Should we stay away from Chai-hu? Why did he fall into the trap again? "Binger, what are you messing around with?" Luo Jin was furious. Today, he was very angry with his daughter, who repeatedly contradicted and disobeyed him, and even wanted to protect the safety of the person who destroyed his grand ceremony. How could he not be angry? "Father, Brother Chai saved my life yesterday, he is my daughter's savior, please don't embarrass him." Luo Bing begged with tears. Luo Jin narrowed his eyes and said, "Savior." Luo Bing said, "Yes, my daughter was in danger yesterday, and Brother Chai saved me." "Yesterday?" Luo Jin frowned, and said coldly, "Didn't you go out with Mr. Chu yesterday? Why did this person save you again?" Luo Bing shook his head and said, "Daughter will explain the whole story to Dad in detail, don't make things difficult for him now, just let him go." When Chu Yu heard that, his face turned pale immediately, and he ran up to Luo Bing, reached out and grabbed her arm, and said, "Sister Bing, stop messing around, didn't the Lord City Master say not to hurt him? Be obedient." Luo Bing shook his head and said, "Then let him go now." A trace of impatience flashed in Luo Jin's eyes, and he said to Chu Yu, "Master Chu, my little girl is not sensible, take her down to rest." Chu Yu nodded, "Your Majesty's order." While speaking, he stretched out his hand to pat Luo Bing, and Luo Bing immediately fell down limply. Although he was conscious, he was unable to move. Chu Yu picked her up by the waist and was about to walk towards the back hall. After that Chai-hu was injured by the bride, he seemed to have lost his soul, and he was unmoved by everything in front of him. Until then, he had one red eye and gritted his teeth. "Fifth sister, tell me, why is this? Did you really marry this old man voluntarily?" Luo Jin sneered and said, "This seat has already given you enough face, if you don't know how to flatter you, don't blame this seat for being rude to you." The guests on the side shouted, "Your Excellency, the city lord, there is no need to be too merciful. This person's crime is unforgivable." Exactly, the bride and the city lord are very loving and loving. They can cross the same boat after 100 years of cultivation, and sleep together in the same bed after 1,000 years of cultivation. A pair made in heaven and a pair made in earth. How can you, a despicable villain, easily break them apart? I don't believe it, I don't believe it. Chai-hu roared with all his might. Stubborn. Luo Jin snorted coldly, and shouted, then you should watch carefully from the sidelines to see if Zhou Jing voluntarily married me. After the words were finished, Luo Jin turned his head and looked around, and said with a gloomy expression, if there are any friends who disagree with this marriage, please stand up, and I will give you a satisfactory answer. Today he was disrupted by someone, his face was damaged, and he wanted to stand up to restore his dignity, and when he said this, he had a murderous look on his face. Who dares to stand up and contradict him again? My lord, you are joking. There are always a few people in this world who don't know how to flatter you, so don't bother me. Yeah, it's really not worth it to let this kind of person ruin his mood. Go on, go on. Only then did Luo Jin look a little amiable, and said with a cold snort, today is a festive day, and I don't want to get angry. If anyone disagrees, you can speak up. He looked around, and everyone smiled apologetically. A voice suddenly sounded, and the relaxed atmosphere suddenly became tense again. Many people gasped and looked towards the source of the voice, thinking to themselves that there are really people who are not afraid of death in this world. At this time, he dared to sing a different tune. Luo Jin's face was also stern, his anger was beyond words, and he looked aside with murderous intent in his eyes. On the frontmost table over there, a young man stood up with a smile, raised his hand and said, I have a little opinion, I hope the Lord City Master will not be angry. People from Shiba sect, it's actually a disciple of Chen Yizong, so it's not like he is going to make trouble at this time. This person looks very nice, is he really from Chen Yizong? Can there be a fake? Didn't you see him sitting with Yi Qinghan, Du Xian and others? Now it's interesting. Whispering sounds sounded, and when everyone saw clearly that the speaker was sitting with the disciples of Chen Yi sect, they immediately understood that today's affairs had become more complicated. After all, Chai-hu is only one person, and it is just ridiculous to be injured if he fails to snatch a marriage, but if Chen Yizong wades into this muddy water, then maybe the two forces will completely tear their skins apart and go to war directly. This is a relationship, a major event with a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles. At the entrance of the lobby, Chu Yu was about to leave with Luo Bing, who had lost his ability to move. After hearing this, he suddenly stopped and looked back. After seeing who the speaker was, his expression changed slightly. Why is this kid, he is too lawless. Young Master Yang. Yi Qinghan was dumbfounded, staring blankly at Yang Kai, who stood up, with his hands on his red lips, wondering what kind of nerve Yang Kai had to join in the fun. Young Master Yang, what are you doing? Du Xian's complexion changed slightly, and he realized the seriousness of the matter instantly. Although they knew that young Master Yang was not a disciple of Chen Yi sect, others didn't know. Everyone was sitting at the same table, others would naturally guess that Yang Kai stood up against this marriage at this time, making others look as if he was acting on behalf of Chen Yizong. Once there is this misunderstanding, I'm afraid they will never be able to leave Sky Crane City. In an instant, cold sweat broke out on Du Xian's forehead. Private matter. It's purely private matter. Yang Kai smiled at the two of them and looked up at Luo Jin. Luo Jin was obviously also at a loss. After looking at Yang Kai for a while, he said, Your Excellency is also from the Chen Yi sect. How come I have never seen you before? What puzzled Luo Jin even more was that the group of Chen Yizong actually sat at the table in the front. What's the situation? To be continued. Chapter 2308. Phone reading. I said that I am not from Chen Yi sect, do you believe me? Yang Kai looked at Luo Jin with a smile on his face. Element of female sign. Yi Qinghan and Du Xian on the side both had hard faces, kept wiping the cold sweat from their foreheads, and looked nervous. Luo Jin saw this scene in his eyes, frowned slightly, and said in a deep voice, Then what's your name? Although Yang Kai is only a Daoyuan second level, a small level lower than his cultivation base, but Yang Kai does not seem to be very old. Such an age, such a cultivation base, he can't help but be too contemptuous. Just in case first, Luo Jin felt that it would be better to inquire about the origin of the other party first. Yang Kai. Yang Kai didn't look at Luo Jin when he said this, but kept staring at the bride's reaction, and said loudly, Ling Xiaozong. Yang Kai. Ling Xiaozong, which sect is this? We have such a sect in the southern region. Why have I never heard of it? Maybe it's the sects of other domains. The world is so big and there are so many sects. It's not surprising that you haven't heard of it. The surrounding guests started whispering, and even Yi Jinghan and the others frowned and thought about it, but no one had heard of Ling Xiaozong, so they couldn't help being extremely curious. And after the bride heard Yang Kai's introduction, her delicate body trembled suddenly, as if her mind had received some kind of shock. Seeing this scene, Yang Kai's eyes brightened, and he felt more and more that his guess was right. The moment the bride shot at Chaihu before, Yang Kai felt that her power fluctuations were a little familiar, as if it was someone he knew, but now his guess in his heart became more certain. Luo Jin obviously had never heard of a sect like the Lingxiao sect, so he frowned and said, "Young brother Yang, what do you think of this grand ceremony? How about letting me listen to it?" Yang Kai grinned and said, "Actually, I don't have any big opinions, but I am more curious about the appearance of the bride. If the Lord City Lord does not give up, can you let the bride lift this hijab, and let me wait to see the peerless woman?" Appearance. Speak out. Everyone looked at Yang Kai with strange expressions, thinking how could a bride lift her hijab before entering the bridal chamber? Every woman would only lift the hijab by the groom after entering the bridal chamber on the day of marriage. This is custom. This is etiquette, and those who break this custom and etiquette will definitely bring misfortune to the family. If the bride can show off generously on the day of marriage, what do you need the red hijab for? Although everyone knows this kind of thing in their hearts, to be honest, they are also very curious about the appearance of the bride, and they all want to see her beauty, but no one has the guts to say it at this time. They all secretly looked forward to it. Luo Jin's eyes were full of majesty. He looked straight at Yang Kai. He was silent for a long time before he laughed, and said, "This little brother Yang is really funny. I must have made this joke with this old man because the atmosphere was too tense just now. The little brother's heart, the old man appreciates it." While speaking, he clasped his fist slightly. She cupped her hands to signal, but her eyes were full of threats. "If you continue to pester me, I will make you look good." As soon as his voice fell, Yang Kai smiled and said, "My lord, I misunderstood. I am not joking, but I really want to see what this bride looks like." The smile on Luo Jin's face disappeared suddenly, and his face sank like water. Yang Kai didn't seem to see it, and said to himself, "Everyone knows that the city lord is very lucky. The 14 concubines in the family, who are thin and fat, embrace the left and right to enjoy the blessings of everyone, but they never know who the city lords are. What kind of lady does she look like? Every time she goes out, she is covered with a black veil. The guards clear the way, making it impossible for people to get a glimpse of her true face, but I think you all know that those city lords' wives must all be beautiful, only this kind of face, only then can it be worthy of the majesty of the city lord." Luo Jin listened, laughed, and said, "Little brother has won the prize." He thought to himself, this kid was not looking for trouble, but came to flatter him. If that's the case, then it's not impossible to cooperate with him. Right now, this is the 15th lady of the city lord. The lord of the city can't hide it anymore, just to tantalize people. Yang Kai winked at Luo Jin for a while. "Why don't you take advantage of the gathering of guests from all over the world to let everyone how about feasting my eyes? It also made me wait for a wish. If so, we will surely be able to enjoy the blessings of the city lord. Maybe we will be able to enjoy the same blessings as the lord." Everyone say no. Although the guests didn't interrupt and just listened quietly, many of them showed anticipation, as if they really wanted to see what the bride looked like. Luo Jin smiled and said, "Little brother, Luo and all the wives are in love with each other, a match made in heaven. If you want to be happy, I strongly recommend you to go to the Qianjinbazui building in this city, where you will definitely be happy. Those who can get what they want, there are many beautiful girls there." As soon as this remark came out, the guests around laughed loudly, admiring Luo Jin's humor. But some people heard the meaning behind Luo Jin's words. Could it mean that my wife is not a girl from the drunken building, so you idlers can read it whenever you want, and dare to babble? That is humiliating this seat. Don't blame this seat for getting angry. Okay, the auspicious time is almost over, let's continue the ceremony. Luo Jin waved his hand, ready to end the farce that made him impatient. Yang Kai suddenly took a step forward and said in a deep voice, "What if I have to take a look at the bride?" Luo Jin turned his head, looked at Yang Kai coldly, and said indifferently, "Little brother, go back and sit down." "Young Master Yang, what are you doing?" Yi Jinghan was going crazy. She had no idea why Yang Kai provoked Luo Jin again and again at this juncture. she clearly saw Luo Jin's impatience and anger. I know that if this continues, the matter will not end. Young Master Yang, come back. Du Xian also persuaded. Yang Kai turned his head to look at them, and said indifferently, this is my private matter, if you are afraid of being implicated, you can leave now, but don't point fingers at me. Du Xian frowned, his expression quite displeased. Yi Jinghan panicked, waved her hands and said, that's not what I meant, it's just. Yang Kai didn't wait for her to speak, so he left directly from his seat, and walked towards the bride step by step. His steps were not fast or slow, his expression was leisurely. He looked at Luo Jin and said, my lord, if I don't see the bride today I'm afraid I won't be able to sleep well at night, so the city lord will grant my wish, okay. Is this kid crazy? Over there, Chu Yu was holding Luo Bing in his arms and standing there stupidly, with a wonderful expression on his face. He really couldn't understand what Yang Kai was going to do. After all, from the only contact look, Yang Kai is not the kind of person who will mess around. But Chai Hu, who was already full of despair and was suppressed by the strong men of the city lord's mansion, suddenly brightened his eyes and looked at Yang Kai with burning eyes, as if he had caught a life-saving straw in despair. He struggled and shouted, little one. Brother, help me take her away, she is just confused for a moment, you must take her away. Presumptuous. Luo Jin shouted loudly, looked at Yang Kai aggressively and said, boy, I think you are here to provoke trouble on purpose. Yang Kai walked towards the bride, shaking his head and said, City Lord Luo, you have wronged me, I just want to see the bride, if you disagree, I have no choice but to come by myself. Luo Jin said angrily, take him down. With an order, more than a dozen warriors suddenly sprang out from all directions, rushing towards Yang Kai aggressively. Among them were two Daoyuan two-layer powerhouses, one on the left and one on the right, presenting a pincer attack trend. Seeing that the battle was about to break out, many guests all changed their expressions and retreated one after another, fearing that it would hurt Kai Yu. Quite a few people looked at Yang Kai with pity on their faces, secretly thinking that this kid might have lost his head, and even made such a mess on the city lord's concubine ceremony. Isn't he courting death? In the blink of an eye, the dozen or so martial artists rushed to Yang Kai, and the two Daoyuan two-layer realms took the lead in attacking without mercy. In an instant, the source power in the lobby burst out, and the energy surged up. But then there was a burst of bang 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 bang, mixed with screams, and all the warriors of the city lord's mansion who rushed to Yang Kai flew back the same way, hitting the four walls heavily, knocking this one hole after another was knocked out in the lobby. What's the situation? What happened? Am I dazzled? Is it my eyes? There were bursts of exclamations, and the guests could hardly believe what they saw. Some people rubbed their eyes over and over again, but they still couldn't change the result that appeared in their eyes. The dozen or so warriors, including the two Daoyuan second-level experts, all flew back in a face-to-face encounter. It is impossible for them to make such funny actions for no reason, and the only explanation is that they were hit by Yang Kai. However, 99% of the people didn't even see how Yang Kai shot, they just vaguely saw Yang Kai's figure shake. Only a handful of Daoyuan third-layer realms squinted their eyes, showing a dignified look on their faces, and saw Yang Kai's extraordinary. The same is true for Luo Jin, who thought Yang Kai was just a brat who didn't know the heights of the sky and the earth, but he didn't expect him to hide his secrets. In an instant, Luo Jin realized that he was in big trouble. After repelling the dozens of City Lord Mansion warriors, Yang Kai still had a calm face, as if nothing had happened, and continued to walk towards the bride. What are you doing in a daze? Let's go together. Seeing that something was wrong, Luo Jin yelled loudly. In the next teleport, more City Lord Mansion powerhouses flew out and rushed towards Yang Kai. Yang Kai stopped abruptly, turned his head and turned around, his eyes were filled with coldness, and he said in a cold tone, if someone dares to come up again, don't blame me for being merciless. As soon as this remark came out, many warriors who rushed towards him couldn't help but show hesitation, fearing that they would risk their lives here, but Luo Jin was watching from the side, and they could only grit their teeth, mobilize their strength one after another, and sacrifice their respective secret treasures and secret techniques blasted towards Yang Kai. In an instant, the place where Yang Kai was located was shrouded in colorful rays of light, and the surging energy collided with each other, making a violent sound, and the entire lobby shook for a while, as if it was about to collapse. To be continued. Chapter 2309. So you are playing tricks. Phone reading. Everyone stared wide-eyed at the place where the energy converged, wondering how Yang Kai could resolve such a danger, but what disappointed them was that Yang Kai didn't escape from it, and there was no movement. Pinshu.com www. VODTW. COM circle.operator. Young Master Yang. Yi Jinghen's complexion changed drastically, and she called out tenderly. Such a ferocious attack, with Yang Kai's Daoyuan 2-layer cultivation level, it is impossible to block it. She feels that Yang Kai is afraid that there is a lot of danger. Luo Jin sneered over there with a sarcastic look on his face. In a short time, the energy dissipated, and a huge pothole had appeared where Yang Kai stood, but Yang Kai was nowhere to be seen. Where are people? Where did they go? Is he dead? Was he beaten into flying ash? It makes sense, this kid is here to make people laugh. The thunder is loud, but the rain is little. With so many warriors in the city lord's mansion attacking together, even at the 3rd level of Daoyuan, they will surely die. How can this kid stop him at such a young age? He must die without a place to die. Seeing this, everyone couldn't help discussing. Some regretted Yang Kai's untimely death, some laughed at Yang Kai's overreaching, and some immediately flattered Luo Jin and flattered him infinitely. There was a faint smile on Luo Jin's face, but there was a faint feeling of uneasiness growing in his heart, which made him feel uncomfortable all over. Chai Hu's face was ashen, and he didn't recover for a while. On the table over there, Du Xian was also pale, swallowing his saliva continuously, and he didn't recover for a long time. After a long time, he woke up like a dream, and said in a low voice, "We have to leave quickly, if we don't leave, it will be too late." Yang Kai is dead, although Yang Kai has nothing to do with Chenyi sect, but he just sat at the same table with himself and others. It is inevitable that some people will misunderstand something, especially Luo Jin. Maybe they will take the opportunity to attack Chenyi Zong and detain them here forcibly. If Luo Jin really did this, he would be well known as a teacher and would not be criticized. Thinking of this, Du Xian panicked, and quickly grabbed Yi Jinghen while speaking. He wanted to sneak away while everyone's attention was being attracted. Who knew that Yi Jinghen didn't move at all, but kept looking around in the void with her beautiful eyes. "Yi Zi, what are you doing?" Du Xian was anxious. Yi Jinghen said, "Young Master Yang will not die, he cannot be killed so easily." Du Xian didn't know where her confidence came from. He gritted his teeth and shouted, "He has no bones left, what are you looking for?" Yi Jinghen said, "I have seen young Master Yang's abilities, how could he die like this?" Yang Kai had promised her that he would go back to Chenyi Zong to repair the cross-boundary space magic circle with her. This is related to the future rise and fall of Chenyi Zong. How could Yi Jinghen be careless? Before seeing Yang Kai's body, she felt that it was absolutely impossible for Yang Kai to die. It doesn't matter how powerful he is. 2 fists are no match for 4 hands, Yi Zi. Du Xian persuaded earnestly. "I believe him." Yi Jinghen bit her red lip. Continuing to search in the void, suddenly, she seemed to have discovered something. She stared at one direction tightly, exclaimed in surprise, but quickly covered her mouth with her hand. Du Xian and the others looked stunned, and followed her gaze to look over there, only to see a strong man from the city lord's mansion standing over there. It seems that he is still a Daoyuan 2-layer powerhouse, and this person is the one who participated in the attack on Yang Kai just now. Just this moment, a faint phantom appeared behind this person like a ghost, and that phantom gradually solidified, forming the appearance of Yang Kai. This, Du Xian almost stared at his eyeballs, tremblingly said, "Really, not dead?" There was a throbbing in his heart. How strong should he be to escape from the attack just now without being noticed? Not only did he not die. Instead, there was no injury, not even a wrinkle in the clothes. Many spiritual thoughts in the lobby were covered, and those Daoyuan 3rd-layer powerhouses seemed to have not let down their vigilance. As soon as Yang Kai appeared, they were noticed. In an instant, several pairs of eyes focused on him. After seeing Yang Kai's figure, Luo Jin's complexion changed drastically, and he shouted, "What do you want to do, kid?" Yang Kai poked out a head from behind the Daoyuan 2nd-layer martial artist, looked at Luo Jin with a grin, stretched out his hand and swiped forward slightly. A hidden space power fluctuated out, and soon disappeared. After doing this, he said, "I said, whoever dares to attack me again, don't blame me for being rude." As soon as he said that, Luo Jin shivered inexplicably, and an extremely uneasy feeling spread in his heart. But at this moment, the Daoyuan 2-layer in front of Yang Kai suddenly fell forward. Before the body landed, blood was sprayed from the neck, and the head flew high. Shouts of exclamation resounded from all directions, and countless people looked at Yang Kai in horror, retreating again and again, pulling away from him. The man who just died was also a well-known strong man in Sky Crane City. He has always been Luo Jin's right-hand man, and he governs Sky Crane City with him. But such a strong man was killed by Yang Kai without a sound. Judging from his blank eyes before he died, it seemed that he didn't realize what happened until he died. Everyone was shocked. How powerful this young man must be to kill a Daoyuan two-layer without anyone noticing. Didn't even notice the murdered person. Yang Kai looked at Luo Jin, and said lightly, "It's really embarrassing to let the city lord see the blood on a happy day, so I hope no one will stop me." After speaking, he walked towards the bride who had been standing still. Along the way, everyone parted the road unconsciously and let him pass, and the warriors of the city lord's mansion also retreated slowly with ugly expressions, and no one dared to step forward to disturb him. Luo Jin's face sank like water. He stared at Yang Kai's back, his eyes flashed with murderous intent. This young man named Yang Kai made such a fuss at today's grand ceremony, which must have greatly damaged his dignity. If he can't save his face, how will he gain a foothold in Sky Crane City in the future? But several Daoyuan two-layers can't do anything to him together, and I am afraid that only myself can subdue him. With this in mind, Luo Jin cast a glance at a certain place in the crowd. Over there, Yang Kai had strode up to the bride. With a complicated look on his face, he reached out and grabbed the bride's red hijab, and said, "I'm offended." The surrounding guests all stared wide-eyed. On the one hand, they wanted to know how the situation would develop, and on the other hand, they were a little curious about the appearance of the bride. Yang Kai made such a fuss. The original intention was to see what the bride looked like, and even offended the city lord's mansion, killing a deputy city lord, so that those who were not curious about the bride's appearance would also be surprised. Here comes the interest. For a moment, under the watchful eyes of everyone, the hall was silent, and the drop of a needle could be heard. It seemed that everyone was holding their breath, just waiting to witness that critical moment. But just when Yang Kai's big hand was about to grab the red hijab, the bride in front of her suddenly stretched out a jade hand and grabbed Yang Kai's arm. With a fierce palm, he moved towards Yang Kai's chest, and in that palm, energy surged, containing extremely strong power. "Be careful," Chai Hu yelled fiercely. He suffered a big loss from the bride's hand just like this. If he had a hostage in hand, how could he be easily captured? Seeing this change, Yi Jinghan screamed incessantly. That palm was so powerful, Yang Kaixin didn't dare to resist for fear of hurting the bride, and let the jade hand slap on his chest. His whole body felt like being bitten by lightning, and he fell back and flew out in midair. The corners of the mouth had already overflowed with blood, and the internal organs in the body were churning. But at this time, Luo Jin had already killed Yang Kai without anyone noticing, and suddenly sacrificed a secret treasure like a jade wish in his hand, knocked heavily on Yang Kai, and said with a grinning smile, "This seat to see you on your way." As the words fell, Yu Rui had already knocked on Yang Kai's body, and the radiance above Yu Rui radiated a mysterious power, knocking out a black hole in the void, devouring Yang Kai's body. In the blink of an eye, Yang Kai's whole body was torn apart. Luo Jin succeeded in one blow, and laughed loudly. This is the fate of disobedience. The guests around were all silent, looking at the jade Rui in Luo Jin's hands with apprehensive expressions on their faces, as if this secret treasure was something extremely powerful. But the next moment, Luo Jin's smile froze on his face, because he suddenly discovered that Yang Kai, who was knocked to pieces, did not have any blood flowing out, but gradually distorted and transformed under his gaze, dissipating like smoke. Remnant image. Luo Jin's face changed drastically, never expecting such a foolproof sneak attack to miss. "It turns out that you are playing tricks." Yang Kai's voice suddenly sounded from the crowd, causing the guests next to him to jump in fright, and they all backed away with greatly changed expressions. When they turned their heads to look again, they saw Yang Kai stretch out his hand on the neck of a middle-aged man. There was a sneer on his face. Everyone didn't seem to know this middle-aged man, and they couldn't help showing sympathy when they saw him so unlucky, wondering why he was targeted by Yang Kai. This middle-aged man also has a Daoyuan first-level cultivation base, and his strength is not bad, but after seeing the scene where Yang Kai killed the deputy city lord, how dare he have any intention of resisting? His body was trembling, and he looked at Yang Kai in horror and said, "Little brother, if you have something to say, what are you doing?" Yang Kai exerted a little force on his hand, pinching the man's neck, and said with a sneer, "Stop pretending to me, tell me, how did you control the bride?" As soon as the words came out, the middle-aged man's complexion changed drastically, his eyes flustered, and he tried his best to cover up. I don't know what you are talking about." You know what I'm talking about. I'll give you 10 breaths of time to solve the secret technique obediently, otherwise you will never have to solve it. The middle-aged man panicked all of a sudden, and looked at Luo Jin for help. But Chai Hu, who looked hopeless, seemed to realize something when he heard this. He struggled to get up, looked at Yang Kai and said, "My friend, what do you mean by that?" To be continued. Chapter 2310 Not a Secret Technique, Happy Dragon Boat Festival. Yang Kai smiled lightly, looked at Chai Hu with some sympathy, and asked without answering, "Are you very sad and desperate? The person who you want to rescue with your life is going to shoot yourself from behind, doesn't it feel uncomfortable?" Chai Hu's face was ashen, staring at Yang Kai with one eye. Yang Kai Dao. She didn't do it voluntarily. Chai Hu was startled, gritted his teeth and said, "You mean, she was controlled by someone?" While speaking, he glanced at the middle-aged man who was held by Yang Kai with hatred, his face full of murderous intent. Could it be that? Is this the person? Yang Kai laughed and said, "You finally understand." Chai Hu looked annoyed. I should have understood. How could Fifth Sister attack me behind my back, damn it. I should have figured it out a long time ago. Why am I so stupid? I, Chai Hu, the most stupid person in the world. He yelled, his face full of guilt and remorse. Brother Chai. Luo Bing's face was full of tears, and he didn't know whether it was because he was frightened or what. He rushed up and pushed away the warriors from the city lord's mansion who had been holding Chai Hu, and then opened his arms like a protecting Chai Hu like a hen. He shouted, "Brother Chai, go, I will stop them." She didn't know why she made such a move. Before encountering that kind of crisis yesterday and meeting Chai Hu, she was still the princess of the city lord's mansion. She was cared for, carefree, and lived happily every day equals in just one night. She felt as if she had grown a lot suddenly. After seeing Chai Hu's expression of self-blame and heartbreak, she felt inexplicably distressed, her body moved involuntarily, and she didn't think about it too much at all. Binger. Luo Jin was furious, his eyes glaring with anger, staring at his daughter viciously. Who would have thought that she, who has always been well-behaved and obedient, would continue to do things against herself in front of the public, and even protect the villain who broke her concubine ceremony? He only felt that the world was spinning for a while, and the fire deep in his heart was blazing. "Daddy, please let big brother Chai go, my daughter begs you, he is my daughter's savior. You can't hurt him." Luo Bing fell to his knees on the ground, pleading bitterly. Chai Hu's one-eyed eyes were full of complex emotions, staring blankly at the delicate figure in front of him, with mixed emotions in his heart. The surrounding guests were also very moved, staring at the weeping Luo Bing with awe in their hearts. "Ice girl, good job." Yang Kai laughed at the side. He gave Luo Bing a thumbs up, looked at her with admiration, and shouted, "Don't worry, brother Chai will not be hurt in the slightest today, and Yang guarantees it with his life." Luo Bing heard the words, his eyes lit up, he turned to look at Yang Kai and said, "Really? Are you sure?" Yang Kai said solemnly, "I promise." Luo Bing wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes, and said happily, "Thank you. Thank you, take him away quickly. Brother Chai has been sealed by them. He can't get away by himself. You are so powerful and you can definitely take him away." Yang Kai slowly shook his head and said, "This can't be done, I haven't finished my business yet, I will take him away when it is finished." After a pause, he smiled again, "Of course, if Miss Bing wants to leave together. You can also come with us." "Me?" Luo Bing was startled when he heard the words, turned his head to look at his father, then looked at Chai Hu behind him, smiled sadly, and said, "I'll forget it. I have to stay with Dad." Luo Jin closed his eyes and said in a sad tone, "Binger, if you don't go back to your room and dare to talk nonsense here, Daddy won't have you as a daughter." He was also fed up, and felt that Luo Bing was too pampered on weekdays, which caused her to do such a thing that hurt her face today, and the pain in her heart was far greater than the anger of being disrupted by Yang Kai and Chai Hu. Luo Bing's tender body trembled all of a sudden, with tears in her eyes, she looked at her father pitifully, tears fell down like pearls with a broken string. Luo Jin had never been so harsh to her before, and he had never said such heartless words to her, which caused her to be unable to accept it for a while, and she was completely dumbfounded. As for you, although Luo Jin was angry at his daughter's nonsense, but seeing Luo Bing like that, he couldn't bear to look at her, so he only sent all his anger on Yang Kai, and turned his head to look at Yang Kai, fiercely said, "None of you want to leave today. Let's go." After the words fell, The city lord's mansion suddenly buzzed, and a surging energy surged up and down, and a solid light curtain suddenly appeared outside the entire city lord's mansion. It was obvious that some formation was activated to seal the entire city lord's mansion up. It's exactly what I want. Yang Kai laughed loudly. No one can run away until the matter is resolved. This kid is crazy, really crazy. Dare to offend the city lord's mansion with your own power. I don't know where the confidence comes from. After all, you are young and energetic, it seems that you have to explain it here. Don't worry about what to do, just watch the fun. There was a burst of discussion, and the surrounding guests all retreated far away after another of the changes, leaving a large open space in the center, leaving Yang Kai and the middle-aged man who was restrained by him. Tell me, what method did you use to control the bride? I don't have much patience. If you can't give me a satisfactory answer, I'm going to kill you directly, asked the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man only had a Daoyuan first-level cultivation base, which was lower than Yang Kai's. Hearing this, his face changed drastically, and his forehead was covered with sweat, and he said in a trembling voice, "Little brother, are you misunderstand?" Before he finished speaking, Yang Kai suddenly raised his hand and swiped slightly at his arm. Puff! There was a soft sound, and the man watched his arm fly out of the body, exploding into a cloud of blood mist in midair, and immediately after, a fountain of bright red blood spewed out from the wound of the severed arm. Ah! My arm! The middle-aged man screamed, his facial features were almost twisted together because of the pain. This is just a small warning, next time you don't give me a satisfactory answer, your head will fly out. Yang Kai's eyes were filled with coldness, and he said coldly, no matter what method you used to control the bride, I think as long as you die, the bride will also escape, right? The middle-aged man trembled all over, his face was filled with fear and horror, he shouted and glanced in the direction of Luo Jin. Luo Jin shook his head slightly. He gritted his teeth and shouted, you killed me. It's useless to kill me. If I die, the bride must die too. As soon as this remark came out, the surrounding guests immediately started clamoring, while Luo Jin's expression darkened and he was extremely livid. Although the middle-aged man did not directly reveal any information, his words were enough to explain some problems. If the bride did not agree to the marriage, why would Luo Jin let people control her? If she really wanted to, there was no need to do such a thing. In other words, she was really forced to marry Luo Jin. And after hearing the middle-aged man's words, Chai Hu's one eye suddenly burst into an astonishing brilliance, and he grinned silly, as if he had untied the knot in his heart. Seeing him so happy, Luo Bing couldn't help but chuckle. The pear blossoms were raining, and they were extremely beautiful. You want to lie to me? Yang Kai snorted coldly, and said ferociously, do you know how much it will cost you to lie to me? I didn't lie to you. The middle-aged man shouted, everything I said is true. Yang Kai stared at him coldly, but couldn't see the slightest trace of lying in his eyes. He nodded and said, okay, if that's the case, you will remove the secret technique. When the middle-aged man heard this, his face was filled with embarrassment and he kept shaking his head. You want to die? Yang Kai shouted. The middle-aged man said, if I don't release it, you dare not kill me. But if I release it, I will definitely die. When everyone heard it, they immediately understood what he meant. If he didn't remove the secret technique, Yang Kai would throw a mouse-snatching weapon, and naturally he wouldn't kill him, but if he removed it, not to mention whether Yang Kai would cross the river and tear down the bridge, even Luo Jin would never let him go. Luo Jin has lost all face today. If the middle-aged man's actions don't take advantage of him, how can Luo Jin give up? He has a heart of tolerance towards Luo Bing, and he has nothing to do with Yang Kai, but towards this middle-aged man, he will definitely be ashamed. Yang Kai raised his eyebrows and said, you have a good plan. The middle-aged man smiled miserably, and said, the situation is forcing, I hope the little brother will not blame him. Then tell me, what kind of secret technique is that? Yang Kai asked again. The middle-aged man glanced at Luo Jin timidly. Luo Jin's cold and stern expression scared him away. It seems that you are determined not to cooperate with me. No matter what, I won't take your life, but I can cut off your limbs. Yang Kai sneered, and raised his hand to do the same. Wait, the middle-aged man turned pale with fright, and he didn't know if it was because of excessive blood loss, so he yelled. What else do you want to say? Yang Kai asked sharply. The middle-aged man hesitated for a while, then gritted his teeth and said, that's not some secret technique. It's not a secret technique. Yang Kai raised his eyebrows, then what method did you use to control the bride? The middle-aged man cried. I can't say, little brother, please let me go. I can only tell you this, there are old and young in the next family, and they also live in Tianhe City. Little brother, you just hold your hands high bar. Yang Kai looked at him coldly, knowing that no matter how much he forced him, there would be no result, so he threw him to the Chenny sect, gritted his teeth and said, Miss Yi, help me watch him, if you dare to play tricks, just kill him. Oh, Yi Jinghan suddenly came back to her senses when she heard that. She quickly reached out and grabbed the middle-aged man, holding him by her side. Yang Kai just turned around and came to the side of the bride. This time the bride did not attack him, but stood there like a sculpture, but as Yang Kai approached, her breathing began to become short, and she seemed to be very excited, and even her tender body began to tremble. Trembling slightly, to be continued. P.S. I forgot to mention in the morning update, today is the Dragon Boat Festival, happy holidays everyone. R1292. Chapter 2311 Mother-in-Law. After a while, Yang Kai finally came in front of the bride, and reached out to grab her red hijab. Luo Jin's expression changed slightly, but he still held back and didn't make a move, and he didn't know what he was planning. The surrounding guests also widened their eyes at this moment, all staring at the bride, waiting for the exciting moment. With a bang, the red hijab flew up, revealing a slightly charming and beautiful face, which made the eyes of many guests brighten, and they were envious in their hearts. And the moment the bride regained her vision, she looked at Yang Kai with her beautiful eyes, full of excitement and reproach, as if she was blaming Yang Kai for taking so long to lift her hijab. Yang Kai also took a long breath, a big stone in his heart fell to the ground, and he grinned at the bride. Senior, it's really you. Fifth sister. Chai Hu also called softly from there. The bride rolled her eyes and glanced at Chai Hu with a grateful expression. Although she couldn't help herself today, she saw everything Chai Hu did. Being controlled by the middle-aged man, she secretly rushed to Chai Hu when she started. She also blamed herself endlessly, wishing she could replace her with her own body. Senior can't talk. Yang Kai grinned and asked the bride with a smile. The bride glared at Yang Kai viciously, as if she knew what she was asking. Yang Kai said embarrassingly, then you can't act. The bride blinked. Hearing what Yang Kai said, many guests showed suspicions, because they could feel that Yang Kai was at the second level of Daoyuan, and the bride was only at the first level of Daoyuan, but Yang Kai actually called this bride for seniors. What's happening here? Chai Hu also looked at Yang Kai with a blank face, and said, little brother knows my fifth sister. Although he had guessed before, he saw Yang Kai and his fifth sister look very familiar at this moment. Chai Hu was still a little surprised. Because as far as he knew, fifth sister, big brother and others didn't have any acquaintances in the star realm. Yang Kai laughed and said with a strange expression, I know, of course I know. Senior Kai Yu, but my mother-in-law. As soon as this statement came out, everyone was shocked. Countless guests opened their mouths wide open. Looking at Yang Kai stupidly, it seemed that he had an auditory hallucination. And there are quite a few people with strange expressions, looking at Kai Yu and then at Luo Jin, their expressions constantly changing. Yang Kai called the new bride mother-in-law. Doesn't this mean that the bride-to-be has already given birth to children? And the famous Sky Crane City Lord didn't know about it, and even wanted to accept her as a concubine. Wanting to understand this point, many warriors who had objections to the City Lord's mansion showed dark expressions. Looking at the ashen-faced Luo Jin over there, they seemed to see a big green hat on top of his head. Exudes enchanting brilliance. After Yang Kai said that, his surging mood finally calmed down. The bride in front of him suddenly broke the seal of the Dark Star World with Yang Kai and came to the Star Realm, the Demon King Qiyu of the Demon Star Emperor Chen. She is also Shan Qingluo's adoptive mother. When he saw the bride for the first time, he didn't pay much attention to it, he just felt that something was wrong, but when the bride used her strength to attack Chai Hu, he found that the fluctuation of the demon element was somewhat familiar to him, secretly guessing that the bride must know it. Think carefully. Only then did he realize that she might be Kai Yu, so he insisted on seeing Fangrong, so he purposely said the word Ling Xiaozong. It was to test the bride's reaction, and the bride's performance was indeed as he expected. It was at that moment that he confirmed his guess, but Luo Jin stopped him and caused some trouble. Seeing Kai Yu's true face at this moment, Yang Kai also breathed a sigh of relief, secretly excited in the depths of his heart. In that starlight channel that day, he and the other 5 Void King third-level powerhouses were scattered due to some accidents, and even Lu Yan and Stone Puppet Xiao Xiao were missing. So long down, He found Lu Yan only by chance and asked her to return to him, but he didn't know where Xiao Xiao and the others were. Yang Kai has always missed them very much, not knowing how they will survive in this unfamiliar star realm. It's just that the star realm is vast, and he has no connections or backing, so he has no power to inquire about anything. It was a miracle that he could meet Caillou in Sky Crane City this time. If he hadn't promised Yi Jinghan to go to Chenyiezong, he would definitely not have exposed Sky Crane City, and if Yi Jinghan hadn't received a message from Yi Hen on the way, asking her to come to this concubine ceremony, he would have missed Qiyu. All kinds of coincidences made today's chance encounter. It is true that life is impermanent, the way of heaven is permanent, and Yang Kai sighed for a while. Boy, what are you calling indiscriminately? Luo Jin really couldn't bear such an insult, and after a moment of indifference, he yelled violently. Chai, who was also startled, looked at Caillou in astonishment, swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and said with difficulty, "Fifth sister, has an heir." Caillou stood there quietly, unable to move, but two red clouds popped out of her cheeks, glaring at Yang Kai angrily, as if she was blaming him for his indiscriminate words and ruining her reputation. Yang Kai laughed and said, "Brother Chai misunderstood, Senior Caillou has a righteous daughter, she is a righteous daughter." Chai, who smiled when he heard the words, and said freely, "Whether it's the adopted daughter or the biological one, you and us are one family after all." Yang Kai Dao. Brother Chai's actions, Mr. Yang saw in his eyes. "I will first thank Brother Chai for drawing his sword for your mother-in-law's help." As he spoke, he clasped his fists and bowed to salute. Chai, who waved his hands and said, "Fifth sister is in prison, this is what Chai should do. Little brother, you should first see how to make the restraint on fifth sister important." Yang Kai nodded, glanced at Caillou, and said in a deep voice, "Senior, I have offended you." While speaking, he grabbed Qiyu Bainan's wrist with one hand, and the source power in his body surged, pouring into her meridians. Caillou's delicate body shook slightly, and she looked at Yang Kai in surprise. She was covered by the red hijab before, and she couldn't see what happened outside, but she just felt that Yang Kai had fought with many people, and at this moment, she noticed that Yang Kai, the purity and majesty of Caillou's power made his expression startled, and he secretly admired it. She is also a Daoyuan realm cultivation base now, so she naturally knows the power gap above this realm. She could clearly feel that the source force in Yang Kai's body had already been transformed, and it was no longer comparable to her own. Recalling that when we first came to the star realm together, my cultivation base was still a small level higher than his, but when I saw him again today, he was already far ahead. This is only a short period of 2 or 3 years. Caillou was very curious about what Yang Kai had experienced in such a short period of time to grow so much. Just when Caillou was secretly shocked, Yang Kai had already started to investigate deeply. After a while, Yang Kai frowned slightly, and said to himself, "Sure enough, it is not a secret technique, and there is no trace of restraining power." Hearing this, Caillou kept winking at Yang Kai, as if she wanted to tell him something, but she couldn't release her spiritual sense, and she couldn't speak. She was powerless, and was anxious like an ant on a hot pot for a while. Luo Jin looked at all this from a distance, just sneered constantly, but didn't intend to interfere at all, as if he had full confidence in the means used by the middle-aged man, and felt that it was impossible to solve it with Yang Kai's ability. "What the hell is it?" Yang Kai frowned and searched carefully, not letting go of any suspicious things. The guests also looked around curiously, and at the same time they gave birth to a deep feeling for the middle-aged man. The color of fear. How strong Yang Kai is, they have seen it with their own eyes, but with Yang Kai's ability, they can't find a way to control it, which shows that the middle-aged man's means are weird. If such a person communicates with him, he must be careful, otherwise, once he uses this weird method to control himself, he will become a walking dead. "What method did you use to control the bride?" Yi Jinghan couldn't help asking curiously when she saw Yang Kai was busy there for a long time but couldn't figure it out. The middle-aged man kept shaking his head and said, "Don't ask me, I don't know anything." How dare he reveal any clues? The whole family is in Tianhe City. Once he reveals this secret, it will bring disaster to the family, and Luo Jin will definitely not let him off lightly. "Gutless guy," Yi Jinghan said with contempt. The middle-aged man looked ashamed and unable to refute. He could only remain silent, looking at Yang Kai with a look full of fear. "Hey!" Suddenly, Yang Kai seemed to have discovered something. His expression was shocked, and his spiritual sense sank to a certain position in the dantian of Caillou's abdomen, and he carefully inspected it. After a while, his eyes lit up, and he whispered, "Puppet bud." It's Puppet Bud. As soon as this remark came out, the middle-aged man opened his mouth wide, looked at Yang Kai with horror, and shouted, "How could you recognize this thing? This thing has long since disappeared, and it is impossible for anyone to recognize it. It's really a puppet." Yang Kai turned his head, grinned at the middle-aged man, and said, "I wasn't sure, but after hearing what my friend said, it is undoubtedly a puppet." The middle-aged man froze, and then said angrily, "You lie to me." Du Xian slapped the middle-aged man on the forehead, made him stagger, and said with a sneer, "IQ is flawed, hey." Yang Kai laughed and said, "Thank you." The middle-aged man lost his mind for a while, his whole body was not well, feeling that the world was full of malice, he turned his head to look at Luo Jin in horror and said, "My lord, I didn't tell him this, I didn't reveal any information to him, he discovered it himself." Trash. Luo Jin snorted coldly. The middle-aged man's expression froze, and he fell to the ground weakly, with no strength left in his body, but the next moment, he suddenly seemed to remember something, and sternly shouted at Yang Kai, "So what if you know? Without my unique secret technique, it is impossible for you to get rid of it. If you want your mother-in-law to be safe and sound, then obediently let me go and apologize to the city lord." At this moment, he still wanted to hug Luo Jin's thigh, hoping to be forgiven. "Tell him to shut up," Yang Kai shouted impatiently. Yi Jinghan simply slashed down with a knife, knocking the middle-aged man unconscious. To be continued. Chapter 2312 Puppet Bud. Puppet Bud, ranked 52 in the Earth list, has thin hair, born in a dark place 30,000 feet underground, extremely difficult to find, and can control others for its own use after connecting with its owner. Yang Kai saw some information on the strange insect sutra before flashing through his mind, and soon remembered how to restrain this kind of thing. This is also thanks to the slave insect bracelet left by the insect emperor, which contains the strange insect sutra hidden in it. Otherwise, with Yang Kai's knowledge and experience, he would definitely be at a loss for what to do about the situation in front of him. Puppet buds are not ranked high on the list of strange bugs, almost at the end, because although it is thin and hairy, it is not easy to detect, and the person who is planted will become like a puppet to obey commands, but it has other disadvantages that cause it is not ranked high. Knowing the solution, Yang Kai quickly immersed himself in searching in his space ring, and found a few herbs in a short time. Many guests looked at him curiously, not knowing what he wanted to do. Everyone was at a loss as to what the puppet bud he had mentioned earlier was. Seeing him take out these herbs at this moment, they all secretly guessed whether it was to restrain the puppet. "Miss Yi, do you have an inner alchemy above Daoyuan level? Let me use it." Yang Kai suddenly turned his head and asked Yi Jinghan. Yi Jinghan was stunned for a moment, and quickly searched in the space ring, but before she could find it, Du Xian had already taken out a round khaki-colored inner alchemy, looked at Yang Kai and said, "Do happen to have one, Yang Xiaoro, don't dislike it, just take it." As soon as he finished speaking, Luo Jin suddenly yelled, "Du Xian, if you still think about the friendship between Sky Crane City and Chenny Sect, then take your juniors and sisters away from this place, and I will not hold you accountable for anything previously." Du Xian frowned upon hearing the words, glanced at Yi Qinghan, saw her nodding at him slightly, smiled slightly, and said, "Young Master Yang is a friend of my Chenny Sect. If a friend wants something, Du can't just sit idly by." Luo Jin's face was livid. He kept nodding his head and said, "Okay, very good, I have written down today's matter, and when I have free time, I will go to Chenyizong and Yihen to talk about it." Du Xian frowned slightly, but he still said neither humble nor overbearing, "It's good that the Lord City Master is happy." While speaking, he had already thrown the inner alchemy of the earth monster to Yang Kai. Yang Kai took it, checked the grade and fineness of the inner alchemy, was very satisfied, and sat down cross-legged. At the same time, with a wave of his hand, a pill furnace suddenly appeared in front of him. The alchemy furnace opened in the wind, and soon grew to the height of a person. The dragon and phoenix carved on the outside of the alchemy furnace exuded extremely strong energy fluctuations, and it was extraordinary at first glance. "Hiss, is this kid still an alchemist? Be good, this alchemy furnace seems to be of the Daoyuan level high grade. To be able to use this kind of alchemy furnace, doesn't it mean that he is a Daoyuan level alchemist? What did he say his name was?" "Yang Kai, Ling Xiaozong Yang Kai." "Yang Kai, this name is so familiar, it seems that I have heard of it somewhere." Everyone was talking about it, and many people showed shocking expressions. They had witnessed Yang Kai's powerful strength before, but now they were surprised when they saw him take out a high-grade Daoyuan level alchemy furnace. Speculation continues. Many people have connected him with the uproar in the previous pass, the person who refined the great wonderful pill in the land of 4 seasons. After all, the two have the same name, and both have Daoyuan cultivation bases, and they seem to be proficient in alchemy. Although this world is big, there are probably not many people who have so many similarities. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Yang Kai ignited the fire, and the temperature of the entire inner hall suddenly increased a lot. Luo Jin squinted and watched. There is no intention of rushing to do it, and it seems to be full of interest in Yang Kai's next actions. Yang Kai was so happy, he kept changing the spirit art, drawing the spirit array, throwing the several herbs and earth-type inner alchemy into the alchemy furnace one by one, controlling the heat to boil. It's just a cup of tea before and after. Yang Kai suddenly stretched out his hand to the side, and the source force surged in the palm of his hand, sucking a bowl over. Immediately, he jumped up, came to the front of the black jade cauldron, slapped the alchemy furnace, knocked off the furnace cover, stretched out his hand to grab and suck it, and sucked out the contents of the furnace. It was a mass of emerald green color, which looked extremely sticky and weird, showing a semi-solidified liquid medicine. From the alchemist's point of view, opening the furnace at this time is obviously a failure in alchemy, but it is exactly this kind of thing that is needed to get rid of the puppet buds. He put the strange medicinal liquid with a strange smell in a bowl, then carefully brought it to Kai Yu, and said solemnly, "Senior, drink this." Kai Yu frowned, her face turned pale. When Yang Kai cut off the semi-finished medicinal liquid in front of her, she smelled an extremely unpleasant smell. This smell was like a pair of socks that hadn't been washed for decades, just smelling it was disgusting. How can such a thing enter the stomach? Seeing her disgusted eyes, Yang Kai grinned and said, "Good medicine tastes bad, drink this and you will be fine." Kai Yu stared at Yang Kai with beautiful eyes, as if you dare to play tricks on me, you will die. Yang Kai didn't care about her, and said in a coaxing manner, "Come on, drink it obediently." Saying this, he pinched Kai Yu's mouth open with one hand, held the bowl with the other, poured the contents of the bowl into her mouth, and at the same time secretly urged the source force to help Kai Yu swallow. Gudong a few times. All the guests turned their eyes away, feeling their stomachs tumbling, and their whole body was not feeling well. Wow! At a certain moment, Kai Yu suddenly vomited out, half kneeling on the ground all of a sudden. Her expression was extremely difficult, as if she wanted to vomit out all her internal organs. Yang Kai stood aside with a smile, threw away the bowl in his hand, and reached out to pat Kai Yu's back. "Stinky boy, you dare to give me this kind of thing?" Kai Yu turned her head and glared at Yang Kai with gritted teeth. She has lived for so many years, and she has never drank something so difficult to swallow. If she hadn't been restricted in her actions today, how could she have suffered such a catastrophe? "Senior, calm down, this kid is forced to do so." Yang Kai chuckled. Fifth sister. On the side, Chai Hu looked at Kai Yu in a daze, and said happily, "You can move now." Kai Yu was stunned, then moved her body like a dream, stood up slowly, and said with a smile, "It's really not restricted." After saying that, she turned her head, regained her majestic appearance, and said bitterly, "Seeing what you said is true, I will forgive you this time, and dare to give me this drink next time." Halfway through speaking, Kai Yu quickly covered her mouth, her face turned pale, as if she recalled something extremely bad. But soon, she turned her eyes away, looked at Chai Hu, and said with guilt on her face, "Fourth brother, I'm the one who hurt you." Chai Hu laughed loudly and said, "One family, what are you talking about? I believe that if this happened to me, you would not sit idly by." Kai Yu nodded with gratitude on her face, turned around, looked coldly at the middle-aged man who was restrained by Yi Jinghan, and said, "How dare you make me suffer like this, I want him to die." At this moment, the middle-aged man looked at Kai Yu with a blank face and blank eyes, and kept muttering in his mouth, "Impossible, this is impossible, puppet buds are almost extinct, how can there be a way to crack it in this world? La." It seemed that he still couldn't accept the result that his unique skill was easily deciphered like this, which caused a huge shock in his mind, and he was in a trance for a while. Yang Kai grinned over there and said, "It's hundreds of years earlier to play with bugs in front of me, ha 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 ha." He laughed wildly and triumphantly, causing many people to pay attention to him frequently, thinking that this kid might be crazy. The laughter stopped, Yang Kai stretched out his hand, and blasted a force towards the ground. That force turned into flames, burning up Kai Yu's vomit. At the same time, as if the middle-aged man had suffered a serious injury, his whole body was shocked, and a mouthful of blood spurted out involuntarily, his face became extremely pale in an instant, and his breath was weak. Although the puppet sprout was forced out, it did not die, so the middle-aged man was safe and sound before. But Yang Kai's blow not only destroyed the puppet bud on the spot, but also shocked the middle-aged man who was connected with the puppet bud, so it was naturally difficult. The reason why the puppet bud is not ranked high on the list of strange insects is because its vitality is not as strong as other strange insects, and it can be easily exterminated. Such as the soul-devouring worm would not be like this. It is extremely difficult to completely kill the soul-devouring worm. If it is possible, Yang Kai also wants to put the puppet bud into the slave worm bracelet, maybe there is a chance to use it in the future. But this kind of strange insect is very special. Once someone burns marks on it, it can no longer be used by the second person, so Yang Kai will destroy it without hesitation. Seeing that the middle-aged man looked like this, Kai Yude frowned slightly, and she didn't intend to trouble him anymore, but looked at Luo Jin coldly. The culprit of all that she encountered today was Luo Jin. If it wasn't for Yang Kai's miraculous appearance to save her from the fire and water, not only would she not be able to get out of trouble today, even Chai Hu would have fallen in. She naturally hated a villain like Luo Jin. Xiaoyu, it's still too late for you to come to this seat, and this seat assures you that everything that happened before will not be blamed. Luo Jin looked at Qiyu and said lightly. Little, you. Yang Kai's eyes widened, dumbfounded. Back then, Qiyu, the demon king on Dichen Star, controlled the entire star, and all the hundreds of millions of demon clans obeyed orders. When they came to the star realm, they were called Xiaoyu. If the other monster lords on Dichen Star knew about this, they didn't know how they would feel. Kai Yu seemed to have noticed the subtle change in Yang Kai's expression, and glared at him fiercely, then snorted coldly and said, Old dog. You imprisoned my elder brother and the others, forced me to marry you, and now you actually want me to marry you. Beside, are you still asleep? Quote. Luo Jin's face darkened, his face was full of anger. He knew that after today, he was afraid that he would lose face, and he wanted to redeem it through Kai Yu, but he didn't want to be rejected so flatly by her, so he became extremely angry for a while, and his murderous thoughts surged like a tide. To be continued. XH 118. Chapter 2313 News about Ghost Ancestor and Others. Brother, are they really imprisoned by this old dog? Chai Hu asked angrily with a look of anger. Yes. Kai Yu gritted her silver teeth, a gloomy look flashed across her face. It's all my fault, I mistrusted the old dog's words, and made Big Brother and the others be controlled by others. Despicable villain. Chai Hu spat out a mouthful of blood while cursing. Although he was seriously injured, the mouthful of blood still rushed towards Luo Jin like an arrow from the string. With strength, he blocked the bloody water, his eyes were extremely gloomy. Yang Kai frowned and said, Senior, who is the big brother you mentioned? Although he had a guess in his heart, he was not sure, so he could only ask. Kai Yu said, You are the supreme elder of Lingxiao sect, Ghost Ancestor. Oh, Yang Kai frowned, overjoyed and said, Elder is also here. Well, but he is now imprisoned somewhere in the city lord's mansion, and I don't know where. Kai Yu sighed slightly. Where are the others? Also here? Yang Kai asked anxiously. Kai Yudeo, the leader of the Ancient Alliance and the president of IO are both here. Yang Kai looked at her words and saw that she looked different, slightly startled, and said, Then, where is Master Wu Dao? They set off from Gloomy Star that day. They were a group of 6 people. In addition to Yang Kai Chiyu, there were also IO, the president of the Hengluo Chamber of Commerce, Jiyu Kangyan, the leader of the Sword League, and Gui Zhu, the elder of the Lingxiao sect. It is recognized that the strongest Void King has no way at the 3rd level. These 6 people, except for Yang Kai who was only at the 2nd level of the Void King at that time, the remaining 6 are all at the 3rd level of the Void King, and they are the top combat power in the star field. With the help of the Star Emperor token left by Yang Yan, the 6 of them opened the Starlight Channel and came to the Star Realm through Thorns and Thorns, but they were ambushed in the channel and separated after a scuffle. Yang Kai also guessed before that besides himself, there should be a great possibility that other people will be together, and now he saw Kai Yu mentioning Gui Zhu, Io and Jiyu Kangyan. Immediately, I knew what I was thinking was right. But she didn't say where Wu Dao was, which made Yang Kai feel uneasy. Sure enough, Kai Yu's expression darkened when she heard Yang Kai's question. Said, Master Wu Dao, he has already gone. What? Yang Kai's complexion changed drastically, and he could hardly believe it. Wu Dao was recognized as the strongest Void King realm in the Star Territory back then, and it was already the peak of the Void King's third-layer realm. It was only one step away from being promoted to the Dao Source realm, only because the laws of heaven and earth in the Star Territory did not allow it. That's why I didn't get promoted. Even Long Tianshang, the supreme elder of the Hangluo Chamber of Commerce, was also very respectful to Wu Dao. Kai Yu and others also respected him as the strongest. But what Yang Kai never expected was that Wu Dao died. The strongest person died just like that. How did Master Wu Dao die? Yang Kai looked cold, turned to look at Luo Jin and asked, did he do it? Although he didn't have much contact with Wu Dao, he only met when he left the star field and opened the Starlight Channel, and we have shared hardships for some days, but when he heard the news, he was still very angry. There are only a few people who came from the same star field, and now one of them has already gone. Yang Kai inexplicably felt uncomfortable. Kai Yu shook her head and said, this matter has nothing to do with him, Mr. Wu Dao. He failed to attack Dao's source realm and died under the catastrophe of heaven and earth. Yang Kai lost his mind for a while when he heard the words, and sighed after a long while, doom. He originally thought that with Wu Dao's cultivation base and background, it shouldn't be a problem to advance to the Daoyuan realm after coming to the star realm. Not to mention 100% success, at least he was 100% sure, but after hearing what Qiyu said, he died because of the failure of the impact. If this matter had not come from Kai Yu's mouth, Yang Kai would not have believed it anyway. Because Kai Yu has already been promoted to Daoyuan realm. How could it fail? All of this can only be said to be a calamity in heaven and earth, and it cannot be countered by human power. What about Ghost Ancestor? Yang Kai asked again. Kai Yu said, everything was fine when we parted last time, and they have all been promoted to Daoyuan, but I don't know how it is now. Yang Kai nodded slightly. At this time, Chai Hu, who was listening on the side, suddenly said, little brother, you actually know my elder brother and the others. Yang Kai smiled when he heard the words, and said, your elder brother is the supreme elder of my Lingxiao sect, and I am the sect master of Lingxiao sect. Do you know each other? Chai Hu was taken aback. Looking at Kai Yu, he said, could it be that he is also? Kai Yu nodded slightly. Chai Hu stood in awe, cupped his fists and said, I'm really disrespectful. Chai Hu obviously knew that Kai Yu and the others came from the lower plane star field, and now that Yang Kai did the same, and that he had grown to such a level in such a short period of time, he couldn't help admiring him. Yang Kai smiled and said, brother Chai, don't worry about it. After a pause, he seemed to remember something, and asked, by the way, senior, where is my little one? Little, Kai Yu frowned, you mean that stone? Isn't it with you? Yang Kai's head sank, and said, I have never found it. We haven't seen it either. After we came here that day, the few of us were together. Although we separated, we were not far apart. It was only 2 days later that we met in one place and looked for you. We just kept looking for you, did not find. Xiao Xiao isn't with you guys. Yang Kai felt lost and worried. Kai Yu and the others came to the star field. Although their cultivation base is not high, they are people who have lived for 1,000 or 2,000 years. If a special creature is discovered, it will inevitably be captured and studied. Yang Kai has been most worried about Xiao Xiao in recent years, but he doesn't want to see Qiyu and still not be able to learn about it. Seeing his appearance, Kai Yu comforted her and said, you don't have to worry too much. Although it is a little special, even if it is captured, it will not be in danger of life. As long as you keep looking, you will find it, one day. Yang Kai nodded and said, I hope so. The two of them didn't deliberately lower their volume when they spoke, so everyone around could hear them clearly. But they didn't know what they were talking about at all. They only knew that the two had reunited after a long absence and had a very close relationship. Luo Jin suddenly smiled and said, since you miss your old friends so much, why don't I see you off? Kai Yu said angrily, old dog, be sensible and obediently release my eldest brother and the others, or I will blow up your city lord's mansion. Luo Jin said, Xiao Yu, it's time for you to restrain your temper. It's not proper for a woman to be so hot-tempered. Kai Yu sneered, and said, that depends on who you are dealing with. For a despicable person like you, do you still expect me to be pleasant? Luo Jin snorted coldly, this seat can give you a chance to return to this seat obediently, let bygones be bygones. If you are stubborn, don't blame this seat for being rude to you. Yang Kai laughed and said, I want to see how impolite the Lord City Master is. Could it be because of the 7 or 10 subordinates you secretly arranged around here? Since you have discovered something, there is no need to say more, do it. Luo Jin shouted loudly. As the words fell, more than a dozen figures suddenly sprang out from all directions. All of them had Daoyuan realm cultivation bases, and in midair, these warriors looked solemn, and their hands were forming tactics, constantly changing. And with the changes in the Ju, the source power in the bodies of these dozen people seemed to form a special resonance sound. Yang Kai's complexion changed slightly, and he said in surprise, "Formation." He could tell at a glance what kind of formation these people seemed to be using, just like the Xuanwu 7-section formation. They are all secret techniques performed with the warrior himself as the foundation of the formation. As soon as his voice fell, the dozen or so warriors had already shot together, and the two of them blasted each other, and they were connected together at once, turning into a big net visible to the naked eye, and directly covered Yang Kai and the others. The big net is purely composed of source power, but it has a very strong sealing effect. When it is covered, it seems to be able to lock up a world. Chai Hu and Kai Yu's shoulders suddenly sank, as if they were being crushed by a mountain. The power in the body is not working well, the meridians are blocked, and the chest is tight and almost breathless. Although Yang Kai is better, he is also short. The big net fell. Caught off guard, Yang Kai and the others were all restrained. Young Master Yang. Yi Jinghen turned pale and screamed. Du Xian also looked ugly, and his thoughts changed sharply. Today he helped Yang Kai under the watchful eyes of everyone, contradicted Luo Jin, and completely broke the skin with the city lord's mansion. He was just acting according to Yi Jinghen's wishes, otherwise how could he be so reckless? Seeing that Yang Kai was detained, he would know that something was wrong. If he couldn't escape from the city lord's mansion today, then the few of them might have to stay forever. Here it is. After thinking up to this point, he gritted his teeth and quietly sent a voice transmission to Yi Jinghen. "Yeji, look at me later, and rush out of here together." Yi Jinghen shook her head upon hearing that. Young Master Yang must be rescued. Du Xian said, "This is impossible. When Luo Jin finishes dealing with young Master Yang, we will be next. If we don't leave, it will be too late. If young Master Yang cannot escape, we will never be able to escape. If we want to live, we can only save young Master Yang." Du Xian looked at her in astonishment, and said, "You have so much confidence in him. He is only at the 2nd level of Daoyuan." Yi Jinghen smiled bitterly, and said, "You will know in the future. Some people can do things that others cannot do even if their cultivation base is not too high, and young Master Yang is related to the future rise and fall of my Chiba sect, even if it is death, get him out too." Du Xian's expression changed, and he was a little dazed for a while. Seeing Yi Jinghen's posture, he decided to take Yang Kai away, but how could they Chen Yizong save people in front of so many masters in the city lord's mansion? What's more, Yang Kai and others have already become turtles in the urn, and rescue is extremely difficult. Ha 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 ha. Luo Jin couldn't help laughing when he saw Yang Kai and the others being restrained by the formation, and said sarcastically, "Young people don't know the heights of heaven and earth, and this city lord's mansion is also something you can do recklessly." Many of the guests did not change their expressions, knowing that Luo Jin was trying to scare the chickens and monkeys out of it. Today, he lost face a lot. If he can't catch Yang Kai and others, he will really have no way to gain a foothold in Sky Crane City in the future. Fortunately, his previous secret deployment finally played a vital role at this moment, and he felt relieved all of a sudden. His eyes flashed with extremely resentful and cruel light, staring at Yang Kai, as if he was thinking about how to make love control Yang Kai, relieve the hatred in my heart. To be continued. XH 118. Chapter 2314 How to Write Dead. Phone reading. Above the lobby, more than a dozen Dao Origin Realm powerhouses formed a formation, and immediately imprisoned Yang Kai, Qiyu and Chai Hu in place. Luo Jin laughed, looked around, looked proud, and shouted, "Which friend can help me kill this kid? I am grateful." He didn't intend to take action himself, not because he was afraid of Yang Kai's strength, but because he didn't want to, but wanted to use this method to save some face and consolidate his position. Sure enough, as soon as he finished speaking, someone clasped his fists and asked, "Mu Zheng of Baiyun Tower is willing to help the city lord." Another person stood up, clasped his fists and said, "Guo Jie of Wenxin Pavilion is willing to listen to orders." The third person also stood up and said, "This beast is despicable and shameless. I, Yuan Mo, the soul-destroying swordsman, can't stand it. I would like to take his head as an example to others." Wow! 7 or 8 people stood up at once, representing 7 or 8 forces, and expressed their heartfelt thanks to Luo Jin in this way. Luo Jin's depressed mood finally eased up a lot. He nodded with a smile and said, "Okay, then I'll thank you all." Several people said in unison, "Please rest assured, Lord City Lord, you will not disappoint you." After the words fell, these people all turned around and looked towards Yang Kai with a grin. Although Yang Kai's previous performance was a bit extraordinary, but at this moment he has been restrained by the formations laid down by the warriors of the City Lord's mansion, and he can't move at all. Just like a piece of fat on the chopping board, they can kill as much as they want. Mu Jung of Baiyun Tower suddenly smiled and said, "Everyone, if we bully the few with the more, the rumors will not sound good. Besides, there are many guests here, even if we win, the victory will be invincible." Guo Jie said. Then according to what Brother Mu said, what should we do? The others also looked at him curiously, not knowing what he wanted to do. Mu Jung smiled slightly, and said, "What I mean is that one person can do it, how about the rest of the friends standing aside?" Everyone smiled slightly when they heard the words, knowing what he meant. Immediately nodded and echoed, "What Brother Mu said is very true." Mu Jung Dao. Then, who will take action? Yuan Mo of the soul-destroying sword sect said. Since it was suggested by Brother Mu, then it's up to Brother Mu to act. When the other people heard it, they didn't have any opinions. Anyway, they had already stood up at the critical moment and expressed their sincerity to the City Lord. As for who took the initiative to kill Yang Kai, it didn't matter. Both the left and the right are dead, and it doesn't matter who makes the move. Mu Jung looked exactly as I wanted, nodded with a smile and said, "Since everyone agrees, then Mu will do his part." While speaking, the corner of his mouth raised, and he glanced at Yang Kai contemptuously. As if he was sure of him, he walked towards Yang Kai at a leisurely pace. Yang Kai Yu couldn't help but tense up, desperately urging his own source power, but he couldn't break away from the shackles on his body no matter what. His face changed color in a hurry, and he said, "If you can go, go quickly, leave me alone. If you keep the green hills, you won't be afraid of running out of firewood." Quote. Chai Hu also said, "Yes, little brother, just remember to avenge us." Ha ha ha, do you want to leave now that you are like this? Mu Jung laughed sarcastically, looked at Kai Yu and said, "Don't worry, madam. I have always been very measured in my actions, and I won't accidentally injure you." At this time, he still did not forget to show his kindness to Luo Jin. Luo Jin stood not far away, and nodded in satisfaction when he heard this. "Do you think you can kill me with your abilities?" Yang Kai stood there peacefully, looking at Mu Jung who was approaching him step by step with a smile. That smile imprinted in Mu Jung's eyes, making his heart skip a beat. A feeling of uneasiness spread in his heart, making him flustered all of a sudden. He gritted his teeth, and sternly shouted, "You are still so rampant when you are about to die, kid. See clearly how I will take your dog's life." During the burst of drinking, he suddenly sacrificed a big knife, and when the source power surged, the light of the knife shone, the shadow of the knife was heavy, and a piece of gorgeous color burst out, and he slashed at Yang Kai. He obviously didn't want to procrastinate, he just wanted to fight, so he used all his strength when he came up. And his move directly wrapped Yang Kai and Chai Hu in, but excluded Kai Yu, obviously trying to figure out Luo Jin's mind, leaving only the newlywed wife, and killing everyone else. Seeing his saber light attacking, Yang Kai's eyes flashed coldly, and he said coldly, "A mere Daoyuan first-level realm dares to be presumptuous in front of this young master." When the words fell, his figure flickered, and he disappeared directly from the spot, as if he was not bound by the power of the formation at all. The power of space surged up and down, and rushed directly in front of Mu Jung, pointing like a sword. The immortal 5 elements sword chi lingered around the fingertips and cut straight towards the opponent. Ah! Mu Jung was taken aback, his face turned extremely pale all of a sudden, and he couldn't believe what he saw. He only has Daoyuan first-level cultivation base. If he didn't see Yang Kai being restrained by the formation, with Yang Kai's fierce performance before, how dare he take the initiative to touch the tiger's butt? But now the situation suddenly changed. Yang Kai escaped from the formation, he was scared out of his wits, the whole person trembled, and the blow from the secret treasure in his hand lost all momentum in an instant. Between the interlacing of swords, lights and swords, there was a crisp sound of clanging. Mu Jung was severely injured, and suddenly fell out, vomiting blood in midair. Yang Kai said sharply, "Since you don't know how to write the dead character, this young master will teach you." While speaking, He pointed to the immortal five elements sword chi hesitatingly, pointing at the dragon and snake, clinging to Mu Jung, constantly smacking something at his body. Mu Jung's screams resounded through the heaven and earth in an instant, making one's hair stand on end. One does not know what kind of torture he has suffered to scream so miserably. The surrounding guests were all silent. And Yi Jinghan, who was about to rescue Yang Kai desperately, was also dumbfounded. Although she knew that Yang Kai was extraordinary, she never thought that he would be so evil. The binding formation arranged secretly by the city lord has nothing to do with him. But Yi Jinghan felt relieved when she thought of Yang Kai's power of space. With spatial supernatural powers in his body, even if Yang Kai loses, he will have no problem running away, unless there is an Emperor Senior Realm expert who suppresses him instantly with his strong cultivation base, so that he has no chance to use the space power. After a while, Mu Jung hit the wall heavily, a mouthful of blood spurted out, mixed with broken viscera, his whole body didn't move, he didn't even breathe. He was already dead, but at this moment, Yang Kai suddenly snapped his fingers. With a bang, Mu Jung exploded, and the corpse turned into a blood mist, but it miraculously did not disperse, but was rubbed onto the wall by a force, directly dyeing the wall into blood red color, as if someone had poured a pot of bright red paint on the wall. The smell of blood soared into the sky, making people sick. Hiss. There was a sound of gasping for breath, and the sound of swallowing saliva one after another. Everyone's eyes widened, and they looked at Yang Kai in disbelief. The lightning and flint of this accident made people dazzled, and before many people recovered, Mu Jung, who was rushing towards Yang Kai to kill him, had already died first. How much strength does this need to achieve this level? Come, come, Yang Kai yelled vigorously, pointing at the blood-red wall, and said, "Everyone who can't read, come and have a look, and see how the dead characters are written." He said coldly smiling, "Don't say that I didn't teach you, it will be meaningless if you don't die with peace." Following the direction of his finger, everyone looked again, and suddenly the soles of their feet cramped. I saw that on the blood-red wall, there was actually a big, death, character. On the font, the blood was still dripping down, making a tick-tick sound, and every sound was like a soul soothing. The song is frightening, and between the characters there are countless pieces of minced meat and viscera stuck to the wall. Recalling Yang Kai's previous actions, everyone found out in horror that he actually wrote this word on the wall with his finger as the pen and Mu Jung's body as the ink. This is a blatant provocation, this is an outright demonstration. But no one dared to say anything about it. Luo Jin's complexion turned extremely ugly. He had hoped to borrow a knife to kill people, to deter the guests who came here today, and take the opportunity to save some face, but he didn't want to lift a stone and hit himself in the foot. His face twitched from the pain. Just now someone said that I was despicable and shameless, bewitching people. Yang Kai suddenly swayed, and came to the side of Yuan Mo, who had not seen him for a long time, and hooked his shoulders at once. Looking at him with a smile, he asked. Yuan Mo didn't even realize what was going on. He was still immersed in the fact that Mu Jung was killed and he couldn't extricate himself. He had already been bullied by Yang Kai. By the time he realized it, it was too late to escape. On the other hand, when the other people saw this evil star running to their side, they were all startled. They all avoided, and looked at Yang Kai with fear on their faces, lest he would attack themselves and others. Judging from Yang Kai's performance just now, if he really intends to kill them, they must have no resistance. They were all very annoyed, regretting that they stood in line too early and caused trouble for themselves for no reason. That Yuan Mo was shaking his whole body, his calves were trembling, his face was pale, and he stammered, "Young Master Yang, my servant, just now, I offended young Master Yang by talking nonsense, and please invite young Master. Don't be acquainted with me. Speak out of your mouth." Yang Kai raised his brows. "Then I will give you time to think carefully. Tell me, who is despicable and shameless, and deceives the public?" Yuan Mo was trembling all over. He lowered his head and did not dare to lift it up, tremblingly said, it's me, it's all me, it's me who is despicable and shameless, and deceives the public with evil words." Yang Kai snorted coldly, and said lightly, "It seems that you still don't know how to write that dead character. Do you want me to teach you again?" Yuan Mo was about to cry, and fell to his knees on the ground, crying, "It's the city lord, who is despicable and shameless, deceives the public with lies, and deceives us. Young Master, spare your life, young Master, spare your life." Even though he knew that speaking rudely in public would offend Luo Jin, how could he care so much about life and death? To be continued. If you like this work, welcome to come. Chapter 2315 Don't be too poisonous. A child can be taught. Yang Kai laughed and patted Yuan Mo's head as a reward. Yuan Mo thought that he had shot him a killer, so he trembled in fright, rolled his eyeballs, and just passed out. Trash. Luo Jin scolded through gritted teeth. Yang Kai turned his head and looked at the other people with cold eyes. Before he opened his mouth to speak, those people yelled in unison, "Young Master Yang, I have already seen how to write the word dead. I am extremely honored to see the authentic work of young Master Yang. Yang Xiaojun is an amazing person. He can write such good characters with blood as ink. I admire him." These few people are extremely flattering, although they are flattering, but the smiles on their faces are uglier than crying. Obviously the fear in their hearts is extreme, lest Yang Kai is in a bad mood and will kill them. Many guests looked at them with contempt, feeling sad for their shamelessness. But after thinking about it, if I encounter such a situation, can I perform better than them? With the knife resting on his neck, shame and loyalty are no longer important, the only way to survive is to survive. Thinking of this, many people sighed secretly, knowing that it wasn't that these few people were greedy for life and afraid of death, it was just that the situation was not as good as others. Since you know how to write the dead character, then hurry up and get out of here, don't spoil this young master's eyes here. Yang Kai put a smile on his face and gave a low drink impatiently. As if they had been pardoned, those people rushed back into the crowd like shit, never daring to show their faces again. Yang Kai just turned around, looked towards Luo Jin, and said coldly, "Hand him over, or you will know the consequences." Luo Jin was unmoved, he just snorted coldly and said, "Is this how your lord taught you to talk to seniors?" Yang Kai Dao, I have always respected the old and loved the young, but if the city lord doesn't know how to praise, then don't blame me for beating your mother so that she doesn't recognize you. While talking, he walked towards Luo Jin at a leisurely pace, obviously unwilling to delay the time. I want a quick fix. A trace of nervousness flashed across Luo Jin's face. Although his cultivation was a little higher than Yang Kai's, he saw what Yang Kai did just now, and knew that this young man was not easy to provoke. Seeing him getting closer, Luo Jin immediately looked in a certain direction. He opened his mouth and said, "Master K, please help me." Luo is very grateful. He knew that it was meaningless to ask those Daoyuan first level and Daoyuan 2 level assistants at this time, so he directly invited a Daoyuan 3rd level strong man who was familiar with him and had a close relationship with him. Only Daoyuan 3rd layer can restrain Yang Kai. After Luo Jin finished speaking, an old man slowly walked out of the crowd. The old man had white hair and beard, restrained breath, extremely bright eyes, ruddy complexion, and looked like an elder. He smiled slightly and said, "Lord Luo invites me, I will obey." A gleam of joy flashed in Luo Jin's eyes. Nodding his head, he said, "Thank you." Yang Kai also stopped at this time, turned his head to look at the old man, and said with a smile, "Old man, you want to intervene in this matter?" The old man surnamed K smiled and said, "Enemies should be resolved rather than knotted. If you don't give up, little brother, why don't you sit down and talk about it? The old man is weak, and he is incomparable to young people like you. If it is possible, the old man will also. I don't want to fight with my little brother." "Okay." Yang Kai smiled and said, "The old man, you sit by and watch. How about drinking and eating?" The old man surnamed K said, "I'm afraid it won't work. Since Mr. Luo has spoken, I can't sit idly by." Yang Kai sighed and said, "It's not easy for an old man to live a long time. Lord Yan still doesn't want to accept you, why do you still want to go to the Ghost Gate?" The old man surnamed K squinted his eyes and said, "The young man is indeed very energetic and his tone is very confident. If the old man's guess is correct, the little brother is the master who is rumored to have refined the Tai Miao pill, right? It is not surprising that the old man surnamed K can guess Yang Kai's identity. During this time, Yang Kai's name has spread throughout the southern region. He also reported his name in front of everyone before, which caused many people's suspicions. He suddenly used the power of space to escape from the restraint formation, and the old man surnamed K was naturally determined. The old man surnamed K was not the only one who guessed Yang Kai's origin, it's just that no one else said it out. On the other hand, some warriors who didn't know the truth heard the words and exclaimed one after another, looking at Yang Kai with shock and fiery eyes. What is Tai Miao Dan? Everyone did not know before, but with the rumors of the land of the 4 seasons, the efficacy of Tai Miao Dan has long been known. It is a long-lost magic pill that can help people promote to the emperor, except for Yang it is impossible for those few pieces that were refined before opening to appear again in the world. What? He's the one who made the Tai Miao pill? Luo Jin's face changed slightly, and he belatedly let out a low cry. The old man surnamed K said, with the same name and surname, the cultivation base of Daoyuan second level, and proficient in alchemy, I can't think of anyone else who can have such ability except that old master. Yang Kai raised his brows and said, what a shameful name, what a shame. You really are. Luo Jin's eyes suddenly burst into light, and they became hot all of a sudden, as if Yang Kai had turned into a delicious piece of sweet pastry. The old man surnamed K said, Master Yang's name is like thunder, and I have admired it for a long time. Today is the day of the city lord's rejoicing. It is really inappropriate to do it. Master Yang, can I give this old man a face, and this is the end of today's business. Yang Kai smiled and said, give you thin noodles. Then who will give me face? If the Lord City Lord wants to forcefully marry your mother-in-law, regardless of whether she is willing or not, what do you think? The old man surnamed K put a smile on his face, and said angrily, the old man is old, and the mother-in-law has already passed away. Little brother, don't be too poisonous. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Yang Kai apologized, as if he sincerely admitted his mistake, and changed the subject. Then what if the Lord City Master wants to marry your wife? The old man surnamed K was shocked, his breath was surging, and he shouted angrily, presumptuous. Yang Kai sneered. He didn't really marry your wife, I just said it casually, and you were so angry that you looked like you were going to kill someone. Then he did such a despicable thing to my mother-in-law, do you think can you forgive him lightly? Luo Jin said angrily. Master K, don't talk nonsense with him, you and I will work together to capture him. The old man surnamed K said, all right. The two looked at each other, unwilling to talk any more nonsense. Luo Jin took out the jade-like secret treasure again, while the old man surnamed K turned his hand over and sacrificed a token-shaped thing. The token was only the size of a palm, but on the surface, arcs linger, giving people a very dangerous feeling. Young Master Yang, be careful, KTN is the great elder of Tianji Hall, the Nine Heavens God Thunder was sealed in the Thunder Order that day, so you can't stop it. Yi Jinghan reminded loudly from the side. Hearing this, KTN glared at Yi Jinghan and shouted, shut up, girl, or I will make you look good. Yi Jinghan said contemptuously, the more you bully the less, the strong bully the weak. It turns out that Elder K is such a despicable and shameless person, I am really blind to think that I respected you before. KTN felt uncomfortable when he was told, and he became angry from embarrassment. What do you know, get out of here. When he was speaking, he had joined hands with Luo Jin, and the jade-like secret treasure in Luo Jin's hand was also very mysterious. When he tapped Yang Kai lightly from the air, Yang Kai felt as if a mountain was hitting him, that ferocious force almost collapsed the void. He didn't dare to resist forcefully, he could only dodge and dodge, but KTN shot leisurely at this time. With a tactic in his hand, a large piece of lightning surged out from the Thunder Order that day, turned into an electric snake, wrapped Yang Kai, and stabbed Yang Kai in an instant. The sound of rattling and rattling can be heard endlessly. Exile. At the critical moment, Yang Kai yelled, and grabbed the front with one hand. A black hole suddenly appeared in the void, and there was nothingness and chaos in the black hole, and the thunder and lightning that gushed out from the Sky Thunder Order were all swallowed up. Going in, failed to hurt Yang Kai. What? KTN was shocked. When he felt the power of the Sky Thunder Order weakened, he quickly took back the secret treasure, not daring to release the thunder and lightning easily. All the thunder and lightning in the Sky Thunder Order were collected during the storm. Use a little less, and if you run out, you have to replenish it. This large piece of thunder light is swallowed by the void, which means that the power of the Sky Thunder Order has weakened a lot, and he is naturally very distressed. This fight was almost lightning fast, earth-shattering, shaking the lobby so much that it almost collapsed. All the martial artists around scattered in horror, all of them terrified. KTN missed, but Yu Ruyi and Luo Jin's hand tapped several times towards the void. A series of invisible forces rushed towards Yang Kai. Yang Kai was in midair, his eyes shrank suddenly, and a chill came out of his heart instinctively. The pitch-black moon blade carried an unrivaled force, and when you appeared, Luo Jin was startled, but then he made a few bumps, collided with the invisible attacks that Yu Ruyi pointed out, and eliminated each other invisible. The sound of thunder is invisible, the sound of thunder has no form. KTN shouted loudly, and electric arcs appeared on the surface of his body like a group of demons dancing wildly. swimming on the surface of his body, turning into a rope of lightning, wrapping towards Yang Kai, seemingly want to tie him in place. Yang Kai dodged and hid, but at this critical moment, Luo Jin smiled treacherously, and tapped Yu Rui heavily in the air. Suddenly, Yang Kai's body sank, and he felt a big mountain pressing on him, making him almost unable to straighten his waist. In such a split second, the lightning ropes had been entangled, and Yang Kai was bound tightly in an instant, and there was a crackling sound, accompanied by a smell of barbecued meat. Luo Jin laughed loudly. Young people don't know how high the sky is and how thick the ground is. They always have to suffer a little to see their own strength. He looked like he was sure of winning, and he was rampant. KTN also wiped the sweat from his forehead, secretly startled by Yang Kai's strength. You must know that he and Luo Jin are both a little higher than Yang Kai. Although it took only a dozen or so breaths to capture Yang Kai, this is already incredible. It is impossible for the General Daoyuan 2-layer to survive 3 moves in their hands. To be continued. Chapter 2316 Give up your life to accompany a gentleman. Master Yang, the outcome has been decided, I hope you don't hold back, otherwise you might get hurt. Is greater than or equal to, KTN looked at Yang Kai solemnly and said. Yang Kai grinned and said, what? The old man wants to set up a memorial arch after being a bitch. KTN's face darkened. The old man is just trying to persuade you. Yang Kai laughed. If that's the case, I also have something to say to the old gentleman. What? KTN frowned slightly. Yang Kai's eyes turned cold, and he said in a deep voice, if you are sensible, then quickly stop, otherwise the old man may not be safe at the end of the day. KTN's heart skipped a beat when he heard the words. Luo Jin also seemed to feel a little uneasy, and quickly and silently winked in a certain direction of the crowd. In the next moment, a mass of sword light burst out from the crowd. Chu Yu from Tianzhou Palace held a long sword, wrapped his body in it, turned into a rainbow and slashed towards Yang Kai. This sword seemed to be able to shatter the sky. Chu Yu obviously I have done my best. The attention of everyone present was drawn by the previous battle. They never thought that Chu Yu would make a move at this time. When they saw the sword light, they suddenly realized that Chu Yu had obviously discussed with Luo Jin secretly. All right. Although Chu Yu only had Daoyuan first-level cultivation, but this sneak attack was thunderous, and he rushed to Yang Kai in an instant, with such momentum as a rainbow. Yang Kai was not surprised but smiled, finally can't help but want to do it. What? Chu Yu's complexion changed drastically when he heard this, and when he looked up, he saw Yang Kai's eyes were full of teasing, as if he had expected it, and looked at him sarcastically. Not good. Chu Yu turned pale with shock, and with a flick of the long sword in his hand, he wanted to retreat, but there was no time in such a hurry. Hearing a burst of crackling sound, Yang Kai's body surface suddenly burst into colorful rays of light, and his whole body seemed to swell in a circle. An aura of Yuan Dao Yuan's 2-level realm suddenly permeated the air. Click. The lightning chains that restrained Yang Kai were broken in an instant. KTN was shocked, stared forward dumbfounded, and backed a few steps involuntarily. Master Chu, be careful. Luo Jin shouted. Chu Yu's heart suddenly turned cold as she watched Yang Kai wave his fist and blast towards him. Time of crisis. He turned the long sword, swung a piece of sword light and sealed it in front of him, hoping to save the day. The fist wind greeted him, and there was a sudden bang. The entire void trembled slightly, and the dazzling sword light instantly disintegrated under the strength of the fist, and blasted toward Chu Yu with undiminished momentum. Zhu Zir Dare. There was a burst of shouting, and the 2 Daoyuan 3rd-layer elders who had been following Chu Yu's side also made moves one after another, and one of them stretched out his finger, pointing towards Yang Kai from the air. Another person rushed towards Chu Yu, trying to rescue him. Yang Kai stood still, ignoring the force of that finger, and the strength of his fist burst out. There was a loud bang, and the violent energy overflowed wildly. Accompanied by a muffled groan and the sound of bones breaking, Chu Yu flew out like a rag sack. Even though another old man who was closely behind him rescued him in time, Yang Kai's punch still caused him to be severely injured, and he was still bleeding countless in midair. Depressed. At this moment, Chu Yu couldn't help but think of the words Yang Kai said to him before. Brother Chu, I see that your face is dark today. Your eyes are scattered, your lips are cracked and your tongue is scorched, your soul is scattered, and your face is bright red. I'm afraid there is some bloody disaster. Chu Yu was filled with grief and indignation, secretly thinking that this bloody disaster should have been caused by this guy. Immediately, I felt like dying. Before he finished his thoughts, he tilted his head and passed out completely, not knowing whether he was dead or alive. Young master. The complexion of the old man hugging Chuyu changed drastically, and he turned pale all of a sudden. And the other old man also looked over there in a daze. There was no response for a long time. Chuyu shot first, and the two of them responded secretly, but they didn't expect that Yongkai would still hurt Chuyu, which not only made them lose face, but also couldn't explain to the palace master when they returned to Tianzhou Palace. Before the old man recovered his senses, Yongkai suddenly approached him, and the million swords in his hand came out leisurely, with sword intent and sword energy chanting. Millions of sword lights, swallowing wolves month by month. Chi 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 chi, the sound of piercing through the air can be heard endlessly. Countless sword chi crisscrossed the wilderness, raging wildly. Emperor treasure. The old man's eyelids shrank, and a hint of horror flashed in the depths of his pupils. After feeling the emperor's intention coming out of the million swords, his whole body trembled. Under the terrifying emperor's will, his cultivation base was suppressed by more than 30%, and Yongkai was attacking from close quarters. How could he avoid it? In times of crisis, the old man can only mobilize his whole body to protect himself and dodge with all his strength. Puff puff. The blood suddenly appeared, splashing into the void. The old man was like a solitary boat sailing on the stormy sea, in danger of being overturned at any time. Rumbling. There was a loud noise, and the entire lobby collapsed. Dust splashed everywhere, and many guests rushed out of it, screaming and swearing, and fled to the side. When the dust settled, everyone looked around and couldn't help but gasp. I saw Yongkai standing in the same place peacefully, holding a wide million sword, with sword energy lingering, his figure unruly, and his face cold and stern. And not far away from him, the old man of Nezhou Palace was covered in blood, standing there panting, but he was crumbling, obviously seriously injured, and his face was extremely ugly. And another strong man from Tianzhou Palace was protecting Chuyu, who had suffered heavy injuries. Although he was not injured, he didn't dare to attack Yongkai at will. If he makes a move, Chuyu will not guard him, and with Yongkai's treacherous speed, he can take Chuyu's life anytime and anywhere. All the guests looked stunned and couldn't believe it. Looking at Yongkai's figure, it was like looking at a high mountain, and the pressure was huge. In the short period of time just now, Yongkai could almost be said to have been attacked by the enemy, and was besieged by 4 Dao Origin 3-layer powerhouses, but he was not only uninjured but also seriously injured one of them. Such a record, who can do it? The corners of Du Xian's mouth twitched over there, and he asked Yi Jinghan softly, Young Master Yang, is he really at the 2nd level of Daoyuan? Is it some Emperor Senior Realm Senior pretending to be a pig and eating a tiger? His words almost represent the aspirations of everyone, because no Daoyuan realm martial artist can achieve this level with his own strength, so he can't help but wonder if Yongkai is hiding his true cultivation. Yi Jinghan smiled bitterly. He had entered the land of 4 seasons before, and at that time he was only at the 1st level of Daoyuan. How could he be promoted to the Emperor Senior level in a short period of time? Du Xian thought it was true when he heard it. All warriors who entered the 4 seasons land had been personally inspected by experts from various sects. If Yongkai really concealed his cultivation, it would be impossible for him to hide from the eyes of those experts. Thinking of this, Du Xian was even more shocked. Compared with Yongkai, his own strength was simply a joke, and he felt very complicated for a while. Your surname is Yang. I have recorded this account in Tianzhou Palace, and I will definitely pay it back in the future. The old man who hugged Chuyu looked at Yongkai bitterly, with a look of gnashing his teeth. Yongkai looked at him with a sneer and said, It was you who attacked first, and now you have the nerve to bite back. Are you a dog? The old man looked uncomfortable at what he said, but he didn't have the confidence to refute anything. His face was flushed, and he could only grit his teeth and say to another old man, Go. After the words fell, the two rushed out together with Chuyu, who had passed out. The blockade of the city lord's mansion was also directly blasted in the battle just now, so the two left here without any effort, and disappeared in the blink of an eye, probably in a hurry to return to Tianzhou Palace to heal Chuyu. Seeing them walking so simply, Luo Jin's face became ugly. Although he had only invited KTN to assist him before, he had already reached an agreement with the people of Tianzhou Palace in secret to let them make a sneak attack. He thought that if the 4 Daoyuan 3-level realms joined forces, Yongkai would not be able to overcome it no matter how strong he was. What waves! Unexpectedly, because of Chuyu's accident, the 2 great helpers of Tianzhou Palace left directly. The situation suddenly turned into him and KTN teaming up to deal with Yang Kai. Luo Jin's forehead was covered with cold sweat, and the pressure was enormous. When the strong man from Tianzhou Palace left, Yang Kai did not stop him, because he knew the truth that the poor should not chase after him. The most important thing now is to let Luo Jin release the ghost ancestors first, and ignore the others. So after the figures of the two old men in Tianzhou Palace disappeared, Yang Kai turned his head to look at KTN, and said with a smirk, "Old man, are you still going? Believe it or not, I split you in half in the blink of an eye." KTN looked angry. If someone had dared to talk to him like this before, he would definitely not let it go, and wanted to teach the other party a good lesson, but it was Yang Kai who said this, so he didn't have the confidence to be angry. Even the Heavenly Thunder Order can't help Yang Kai. KTN really can't think of any way to beat him. Seeing the change in his expression, Luo Jin hurriedly said, "Lord K, don't listen to his alarmist words. If you and I join hands, he will definitely die." Yang Kai sneered, and said, "Then why is this young master still standing here?" City Lord Luo's eyes are fascinated by Immortal. He didn't look at the situation before speaking. Luo Jin ignored him, and still persuaded KTN, "Master K, if you can kill this beast today, Luo can give the royal family the 5-year profit of Tianhe Chang." He didn't care about face at this moment, and directly discussed the deal with KTN in front of these countless guests. KTN was really moved. Tianhekung is now thriving, and the 5-year income is definitely not a small amount, but when he saw Yang Kai looking at him with a half-smile, his heart beat again. Luo Jin gritted his teeth and said, "Master K, could it be that a kid will stop you from moving forward? If that's the case, then Master K's martial arts journey will come to an end, and I'm afraid that eternal life will not be able to spy on higher realms." As soon as this remark came out, KTN's expression shook, knowing that what Luo Jin said was correct. If he hesitated here, then what happened today would definitely become his own demons, interfere with his cultivation, and be promoted to breakthrough emperor. Don't count on the prestige and so on, maybe you will go crazy with shame in retrospect in the future. At this point, KTN's expression became firm, and he gritted his teeth and said, "Okay, today K will give up his life to accompany the gentleman and teach this young man how to behave." To be continued. Chapter 2317. Seeing that KTN agreed, Luo Jin was overjoyed and said, "With Master K's help, Luo can rest assured." Yang Kai sneered and said, "I really don't know where your confidence comes from. Since there is a way to heaven and you don't go, and there is no way to hell, you will come to vote, then I will help you all." When the words fell, Yang Kai's figure flickered, and he rushed directly to KTN. KTN's expression changed drastically. He didn't seem to expect Yang Kai's speed to be so fast, and he pulled back before haste. Yang Kai didn't intend to stop him, he just looked at him coldly and said, "There are secrets in my eyes." Hearing this, KTN subconsciously stared at Yang Kai. But soon, he realized that he had been tricked, because at the moment he looked over, Yang Kai's left eye suddenly became golden, and a majestic vertical beam appeared leisurely, making him shudder. He wanted to look away, but he couldn't do it at all. There seemed to be a magical power coming from the golden vertical kernel, which restrained his gaze and made him have to stare at it all the time. Not only that, but even his soul, they were all slightly shaken, and the sea of consciousness was tumbling. Born Lotus. Yang snorted coldly, and a pure white lotus bud flashed away in the demon eye of world extermination. KTN seemed to be bitten by lightning, his whole body was shaking, he covered his head with his hands and kept screaming, as if he had suffered a huge torture. The surrounding guests were all silent, looking at Yang Kai full of fear. They didn't know what happened, they only saw Yang Kai and KTN look at each other, and KTN became like this. Luo Jin, however, sensed a hidden power of spiritual consciousness at that moment, and immediately understood that Yang Kai must have used some kind of soul secret technique, and shouted in panic, "Master K, guard your mind." When shouting, the jade-like secret treasure in his hand grew bigger leisurely, and suddenly pressed down on Yang Kai like a mountain. Yang Kai sneered, reached out and grabbed KTN, who was suffering from the secret technique of Shenglian, and threw it straight up. Luo Jin's complexion changed drastically, and he kept making tricks with his hands, trying to take back his secret treasure. But he went all out just now, how can he take it back now? He could only watch helplessly as KTN was hit by his secret treasure. Bang! The moment the sound came out, KTN's whole body exploded into a cloud of blood mist, with no bones left, the blood and minced meat dripped down, and the scene was extremely bloody. Luo Jin was stunned for a moment, unable to believe his eyes. The surrounding guests also exclaimed in unison, they didn't expect KTN, a Daoyuan third-layer powerhouse, to die so quickly. When he joined forces with Luo Jin again to attack Yang Kai, everyone thought that Yang Kai was doomed, but in the blink of an eye, KTN died first, and he died under Luo Jin's wishful thinking. Such a grotesque ending made everyone unacceptable. Huo. Yang Kai gave a strange laugh, looked at Luo Jin and said, Lord Luo is really ruthless in attacking, even his own allies are not spared. Mr. K's death is really tragic, as the saying goes, crossing rivers and destroying bridges, that's it. His pitiful appearance was seen by many guests, which was both funny and frightening. After all, everyone has seen that part of the reason for KTN's death is that Luo Jin didn't have time to take back Yuruyi, but more of the reason is that he didn't know what secret technique Yang Kai had hit, which made him unable to avoid it. As for the culprit, it was still Yang Kai, but now he pushed the responsibility onto Luo Jin, as if it had nothing to do with him. Luo Jin was also dumbfounded. He thought it was just luck that Yang Kai was able to scare away the two elders of Tianzhou Palace. If Chu Yu hadn't been severely injured, the two elders would not have left just like that, and no one would have been injured by mistakes. But now he understands that Yang Kai's strength cannot be judged by common sense at all. He can make KTN powerless in an instant, which already shows his strength. After hearing Yang Kai's words, Luo Jin quickly shouted, "You fart, Mr. K is obviously you." Yang Kai snorted heavily, and said, "Old Mr. K obviously died under Master Luo's secret treasure, in full view, guests from all over the world can testify, so what does it have to do with me? I really don't know what enmity between Master Luo and Mr. K, what kind of resentment, it really hurts my heart to take the opportunity to make such a murderous move." Luo Jin was so angry that his face turned red. He wanted to defend himself but didn't know where to start. He felt extremely aggrieved, and roared angrily, "This seat is incompatible with you." While yelling, Luo Jin spat out a mouthful of blood and sprayed it on his Yuruyi. In an instant, the light on Yuruyi fluctuated up and down, energy fluctuated everywhere, and an extremely dangerous feeling permeated the air. Yang Kai showed a sneer, his figure flickered, and under the ups and downs of the power of space, he had appeared in front of Luo Jin, and under his dumbfounded gaze, he stabbed him with a sword. He has been disturbed by KTN's death, coupled with Yang Kai's nonsense, which made him so angry that his blood surged, and he couldn't maintain a normal heart. When Yang Kai's sword came, he couldn't react. But hearing a soft puff, Luo Jin suddenly froze in place, the blood all over his body suddenly cooled down, and stared blankly ahead. Yang Kai had a devilish smile on his face, and said with a sneer, "Lord Luo, you better not move, I am relatively timid, if you move around, maybe I will pierce your heart in a panic, that would be no fun." Quote. Luo Jin was dripping with cold sweat. He felt the million sword piercing into his body and stopped half an inch in front of his heart. How could he dare to make any changes? He just swallowed nervously. Don't. Luo Bing suddenly rushed over madly, blocked between Yang Kai and Luo Jin, opened his arms to protect his father, and said with tears in his eyes, "Don't kill my father, this brother, Bing please, son, don't kill my father." She yelled and cried, her cheeks like flowers and jade were covered with tears. Chai, who looked at her, hesitated to speak, and sighed heavily. The surrounding guests also looked solemn, feeling sad for Luo Bing. Today's twists and turns, if anyone has the biggest impact, it is not Chai who caused this turmoil, nor is it Yang Kai who was domineering, and it is not Luo Jin who was seriously injured. It was Luo Bing. When Chai Hu was injured, she begged her father to let Chai Hu go, because Chai Hu was her savior, and she didn't want to see her father hurt him. When Luo Jin was injured, she came to Yang Kai and begged Yang Kai to let her father go. After all, blood is thicker than water, and Luo Jin's blood was flowing in her body. Before today, she was still a carefree and happy princess in Tianhe City. But in one day, she saw too much blood, too many battles, and too many accidents. Between family affection and kindness, she didn't know how to choose. Her delicate body could hardly bear this series of shocks. Yang Kai frowned and looked at her with indifference. To be honest, his first impression of Luo Bing was not very good, because he felt that this girl was a little princess who was spoiled too much and acted recklessly. But today's incident made him change a lot of his views on Luo Bing. The scene of her desperately defending Chai Hu is still vivid in my memory. Although she is a little ignorant, at least she knows how to be grateful. Please, don't hurt my father, let him go, Binger is at your disposal. Luo Bing cried, knelt down on the ground, fell at Yang Kai's feet, hugged one of his feet, and died. Do not let go. In such a scene, all the guests present were moved, and they all looked at Luo Bing with complicated eyes, as if they were meeting her for the first time. Chai Hu couldn't bear it, his Adam's apple moved, and he said in a hoarse voice, Brother Yang. Hey, Yang Kai sighed, and said lightly, don't worry, your father is not dead yet. With Luo Jin's previous practices and attitudes, Yang Kai felt that killing him 10,000 times would not be enough. But Luo Bing's begging made him feel touched, and suddenly he couldn't bear it. Chai Hu dragged his injured body to Luo Bing, stretched out his hand to hold her and said, get up and talk first. Luo Bing raised his head, looked at Yang Kai with tears on his face, and cried, don't kill my father. Yang Kai Dao, that depends on how he treats my friends, if my friends are missing a hair. Luo Jin quickly said, I just sealed their cultivation base and locked them in the dungeon without harming them. Yang Kai glanced at him and said, you know what to do. Luo Jin was startled when he heard the words, and quickly shouted, bring those adults out. His life is in the hands of others, and now he can't be hardened anymore, he only thinks about survival. Some warriors from the city lord's mansion heard Luo Jin's call, so they dared not hesitate and took action one after another. The guests around were also curiously looking in a certain direction, wanting to see what the person Yang Kai was willing to rescue at such a cost was like. In a short while, under the leadership of the warriors of the city lord's mansion, a group of 3 came out from there. The head of the person had an extremely gloomy aura, as if he had practiced some evil skills, which made people feel uncomfortable. This person was not young, he was an old man, but the evil smile hanging from the corner of his mouth made people shudder. Behind this evil old man is a person who is also an old man, but this person is straight, like a sharp sword drawn from its sheath, full of invisible sword intent from top to bottom, it looks like a master with a sword. As for the last person, he was tall and tall, with a calm expression on his face, looking around from left to right, with fierce eyes. These 3 people, without exception, are all at the first level of Daoyuan. When the 3 of them came, they obviously didn't know what was going on here, they just looked around curiously and vigilantly, their spiritual thoughts intertwined with each other, and they were secretly communicating with each other. Big brother, second brother, third brother. Chai Hu shouted excitedly when he saw the 3 of them. The 3 of them looked at him when they heard the words, their eyes lit up, and they hurriedly walked over. The evil old man at the head said, Fourth, what are you doing here? While speaking, he kept winking at Chai Hu, as if asking him to run away quickly. Kai Yu pursed her lips and smiled, Fourth brother came here to save me. R1152. Chapter 2318 Goodbye Ghost Ancestor. Phone reading. Fourth, you are confused. The second old man frowned and scolded. The last middle-aged man with a fierce face laughed loudly and said, Since this is the case, let us turn this place upside down. While speaking, he really wanted to make a move. Seeing that they hadn't understood the situation before them, Kai Yu said with a speechless face, Wait a minute, look at who this is. The 3 of them were startled, and then looked over there in the direction she indicated. At a glance, all 3 of them were stunned, their eyes widened, and they had incredible expressions on their faces, as if they were seeing a ghost in daylight. Seniors, long time no see. Yang Kai smiled and cupped his hands. Sect Master, Ghost Ancestor exclaimed, because he was used to strong winds and waves, so he couldn't help trembling slightly at this moment. Sect Master Yang, Boy Yang, Ji Kangyan and President Io also lost their voices, as if they were in a dream. Kai Yu smiled and said, Thanks to him for what happened today, the 3 elder brothers were able to get out of trouble. Hearing what she said, the 3 of them all looked upright, and quickly released their spiritual thoughts to check Yang Kai's cultivation. After seeing that he was actually at the 2nd level of Daoyuan, they couldn't help but sucked in a breath. They remembered very clearly that when Yang Kai set off from the star field that day, Yang Kai's cultivation base was only at the 2nd level of the Void King, but they didn't want to see him for 2 or 3 years, and he was already ahead of himself and others. Such a growth rate is simply embarrassing. It's fine to have this level of cultivation, but listening to Kai Yu's words, it seems that everything today started because of Yang Kai and ended because of Yang Kai. The air was filled with a strong smell of blood, and the word, death, was written in blood and minced meat on the wall, which was shocking. Luo Jin, the lord of Tianhe City, was stabbed into the chest by him with a wide long sword, and he couldn't even move. Not daring to move, the eyes of the surrounding guests were full of shock and fear. The three of them or old zhenwu just glanced at the surrounding situation. Then he knew everything about what happened before, and his heart became more and more shocked. How can a Daoyuan two-layer achieve such a feat on someone else's territory? Guizhu and the others couldn't imagine it. Are the three seniors healthy? Yang Kai asked. Ghost Ancestor said. Sect Master Lao is concerned, I will wait for everything to be fine. Yang Kai also noticed that they were fine. Luo Jin did not mistreat them, probably just captured them and sealed their cultivation and imprisoned them in the dungeon. At this moment, the restriction has already been lifted, allowing them to recover. After all, the three of them are only at the first level of Daoyuan. With the power of the city lord's mansion in Luo Jin's hands, he hasn't paid much attention to it, so there is no need to be too guarded. I'll talk about the details later, let's leave here first. Kai Yu suggested. Ghost Ancestor raised his brows, smiled evilly, looked at Luo Jin and said, I will accept the soul of the third level of Daoyuan without hesitation. While he was speaking, he sacrificed his 10,000 souls banner, and suddenly there was a gust of dark wind in the city lord's mansion. Crying like ghosts and howling wolves, wisps of black aura visible to the naked eye diffused out, turning into blurred figures, wandering around in all directions. The complexions of many guests changed drastically. They felt the evil aura emanating from this secret treasure, and they were frightened for a while. They didn't know what kind of evil skill this old guy was practicing. Even secret treasures are so evil. Don't come here. Although Luo Bing was so frightened that his face turned pale and his cheeks were pale, he still stood in front of Luo Jin and shouted. Luo Jin also panicked, looked at Yang Kai and said, Young Master Yang. I really didn't hurt them, and I have released them according to your instructions, you can't just keep your word. Yang Kai glanced at him coldly. Reaching out his hand stopped Guizhu's movement. Although Ghost Ancestor didn't know what Yang Kai was going to do, he didn't continue, just kept laughing and making people creepy. Chai Hu rolled his Adam's apple, and said, Little brother, Miss Luo, she helped me a lot before, and she brought me in here too. Don't hurt her. Guizhu and the others couldn't help looking at Chai Hu with a strange look on their faces. Chai Hu said, To be a human being, one must distinguish between grievances and resentments. Kai Yu pursed her lips and smiled, what the fourth brother said is true. Yang Kai pondered for a moment, and with a slight force in his hand, he pulled out the million sword, bringing up a pool of blood. Luo Jin was not surprised but delighted, and quickly said, Thank you young Master Yang. As soon as he finished speaking, Yang Kai suddenly slapped him, hitting his chest directly. Luo Jin didn't check for a while, and before he could react, he was hit by a huge force and spit out in midair. A cloud of blood mist fell heavily on the ground, breathless. Daddy! Luo Bing screamed and ran towards Luo Jin. Over there, Luo Jin sat up with difficulty, looking at Yang Kai in amazement. After being hit by Yang Kai's move, he deeply understood how powerful this young man was, and the strength and purity of the source power in his body was not as good as his own. Is this still a Dao origin two-layer realm? What would happen if he was promoted to the third level of Daoyuan? At that time, I am afraid that he will be invincible under Emperor Zun. When this idea came up, Luo Jin couldn't help breaking out in a cold sweat, secretly terrified that he had provoked such a monster. You should be glad you gave birth to a good daughter. Yang Kai snorted coldly, and shouted at Guizhu and the others, let's go. While speaking, he walked out in big strides, no one dared to stop him, and they all gave way, as if avoiding the plague god, far away from Yang Kai. Guizhu and the others all followed, Yi Jinghan over there also whispered, let's go too. While speaking, He Duxian and others hurriedly followed. The city lord's mansion was quiet, even though Yang Kai and the others had already left, no one dared to say a word, they all looked at Luo Jin with complicated eyes, some gloated, some felt sympathetic, and some frowned, as if thinking about something. In any case, Luo Jin's prestige will definitely drop after today. During her concubine ceremony, not only was the concubine she was going to marry robbed, but also such a scandal broke out, her body was severely injured, and she lost all integrity. Such a city lord, who can obey? Many people secretly felt that Sky Crane City was about to change. Many warriors lost the interest to greet Luo Jin, and left after waiting for a while. After a good ceremony, it turned from lively to empty in the blink of an eye, leaving Luo Bing alone to take care of his old father in tears. Staring at the direction where Yang Kai and the others left, Luo Jin clenched his fists tightly, his face was full of resentment and hatred, and his eyes blazed with burning anger. On the building boat, Du Xian arranged a side room for Yang Kai and others, so that they could have a conversation with peace of mind after reuniting after a long absence. They all came from the star field together, so naturally there is no need to hide anything from each other. After chatting for a while, Yang Kai learned about the encounters of the few people after they separated from him. According to what they said, after the void was shattered that day, several people fell out of the Starlight Passage one after another, and all of them happened to land near Tianhe City. Was discovered by someone. 2 days later, due to various chances and coincidences, several people reunited in one place, and immediately began to search for Yang Kai. But no matter how they searched, there was no trace of Yang Kai, let alone Lu Yan and Xiao Xiao. After trying hard for 2 months, several people had to give up and start planning for their own situation. Initially, life in Sky Crane City was extremely difficult. Although they were all top experts in their hometown star field and had a lot of money, they had to start from scratch when they came to this star field. The cultivation base of the 3rd level of Shuang is really not that strong in Sky Crane City. Such a cultivation base is one of the few in Fenggalan City, let alone Sky Crane City. The few people in this unfamiliar ghost place have no contacts or experience, just like a newborn baby, toddler, while carefully hiding their identities from the lower plane star field, while earning hard money take source crystals to buy training materials. Fortunately, somewhere thousands of miles away from Sky Crane City, there is an experience center, where several people can kill monsters together, obtain body materials of various monsters, and return to Sky Crane City to sell. The source crystals are accumulated little by little, and the training materials are bought little by little, and they dare not waste the slightest bit. It was at this time that they met Chai Hu. Although Chai Hu has a rough appearance, he is very open-minded. After a few cooperations, he became acquainted with each other, and Chai Hu is a native of Sky Crane City. His understanding of the surrounding situation is not comparable to that of Guizhu and others. With his leadership and strategizing, the speed of the few people earning source crystals has been accelerated a lot. After living and dying together many times, and helping each other countless times, they also forged a friendship with Chai Hu. After a great battle, Wu Dao suddenly realized something, and his energy surged, reaching the brink of breakthrough. Several people naturally did their part to protect the law. But what people never expected was that Wu Dao failed at the critical moment of attacking Daoyuan realm, and thus fell under the catastrophe of heaven and earth, which made several people feel heartbroken. Afterwards, several people formed a friendship with Jinlan and vowed to help each other. After 2 or 3 years of hard work, several people also broke through to the 1st level of Daoyuan. Ghost Ancestor and the others were already at the 3rd level of the Void King when they were in their hometown starfield. If the laws of heaven and earth did not allow it, they would not have worked hard to come to the starfield to seek a higher realm of martial arts. So their breakthroughs came naturally without too many twists and turns. Wait, hearing this, Yang Kai suddenly interrupted, so, Senior Xiao is also Dao origin realm. Chai Hu, Guizhu and the others are married to Jinlan, so they can be regarded as Yang Kai's elders, so Yang Kai naturally wants to call him senior. While speaking, his divine sense kept scanning Chai Hu, because he had clearly felt that Chai Hu was only at the 3rd level of the Void King, so why did Guizhu and others mean otherwise? This puzzled him, but no matter how Yang Kai perceives it, he finds that Chai Hu is still only a Void King 3rd layer, not a Daoyuan martial artist. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation.